My girlfriend 33 of 7 months wants to quit her job because I am 31 won a significant amount of money in the lottery. My girlfriend and I have had a pretty tumultuous relationship, which has seen us broken up twice already. I've been the initiator of the split both times, always because of her extreme, unrelenting clinginess and lack of trust. We don't live with each other, obviously. Why we're still together is a bit of a mystery to me. I love her, for sure, and we can get along well together, but we also have very different ideas of what constitutes an acceptable amount of personal space and privacy. When I try to tell her that she is smothering me, she basically shrugs and says she isn't changing. The past 2 months, we've had a slight shelter from our usual storms, and it hasn't been as bad. She's still very clingy and constantly accuses me of chatting and meeting other girls I haven't. Keeps close tabs on what I am doing or who I am hanging out with, etc., but I keep at it because I believe I'd be alone for a long time without her and am, frankly, afraid of that. It doesn't help that she's also told me much the same, that I would be alone without her. Cut to a few weeks ago, I won a lot of money in the lottery, paid in lump sum. It's all very new to me and very, very surreal, and I haven't really done much with it all yet, but talked to some financial advisors to figure it all out. But it's readily acknowledged I am in a position to retire. The only 2 things I have done so far is take a month off from work to sort through things and get very drunk on expensive scotch with my sister. I have a lot of friends right now. I know who my friends are and plan on doing nice things for them all. However, my G/F is now asking me if she can quit her job. When I asked her why she would, she said because I have money, that if she had won that much money she'd have given me X amount of money without a thought, because that's what people do for those they love. Anyways, it didn't take long for her to start accusing me of wanting to ditch her now that I'm rich, and how she was so stupid not have seen it before, all because I don't want to give her a shitload of money. I am in an awkward position now. What am I to do? I am not a stingy or shallow person, but this relationship was rocky before all of this. I am afraid of looking shallow, I guess, even though I believe I am being practical. And while I am not necessarily clamoring for us to split right now, I feel like this will be an issue as long as we're together. Sorry for rambling. Hope that makes sense. TLDR, won the lottery. Girlfriend wants to quit her job now and buy a place together. We were very rocky before, but cutting now also seems shallow. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It's been 7 months and you've broken up twice already. Dump and run. Reply. The argument is, I think she is overly smothering and she thinks I am afraid out of intimacy, so sometimes I second guess my rationale. But she is certainly very keen on knowing everything I do. Like if she sees I am online and it's not writing a lovey email to her, it's an argument all night. I realize it sounds cut and dry, but she does have her good qualities. Commenter 2. You've yet to mention any. Reread what you've wrote and ask yourself based on only what was written, what your advice to a different person who wrote that would be. Commenter 3. Nope, nope, nope. You have this windfall and suddenly she thinks she's on easy street and never has to work again? Fuck that. You have much bigger fish to fry than your dating life. You need to talk to a financial consultant and find a way to make this money last so that you don't end up yet another cautionary tale. You need to learn to be appropriately selfish in a big way, and most likely, you're going to have to end your relationships with a lot of people. Otherwise, you are going to be expected to pay for pretty much everything and shamed when you don't. Don't fuck around with this. It could be the greatest or worst thing that has ever happened to you. Reply. You hit the nail on the head. I do feel ashamed of thinking selfishly, and I think I worry about being perceived as such. It's amazing how much some people have opened up to me the past weeks. Commenter 3. She is your girlfriend, not your fiancé or your wife. She has no right to quit her job and rely on you to support her. She is fully taking advantage of the situation and is probably attempting to make you feel guilty by pulling the if you break up with me, it's because you're rich now. Who cares if you look shallow? She shouldn't assume that just because you happen to win a large amount of money that she is entitled to any life-altering benefits from it. I would sit her down and explain why exactly you are breaking up with her and explain why it has nothing to do with the newfound fortune. If she still accuses you of it being because of the money, you'll know she is just trying to emotionally manipulate you. Reply. She is your girlfriend, not your fiancé or your wife. She has no right to quit her job and rely on you to support her. She is fully taking advantage of the situation and is probably attempting to make you feel guilty by pulling the if you break up with me, it's because you're rich now. Extremely well said. Who cares if you look shallow? This seems to be my problem. She just texted me a while ago saying she accepted my quirks before I won the money, and few ever did so. Before I've only had 2 relationships, so to ditch her now proves money will change me. I feel guilty. Commenter 4, saying she accepted my quirks before I won the money, and few ever did so. Before I've only had 2 relationships, so to ditch her now proves money will change me. This so reminds me of when I finally told my abusive ex-wife I was leaving, and she said, "I'm the only person who would put up with your bullshit." I feel guilty, which I am sure is her intention. This is manipulative as hell. If you didn't think you had a reason to leave before, you do now. Edit. Thank you all for taking the time to respond. I think I am taking my anxiety with the whole situation in general and applying it to a relationship that was on wobbly legs already. I am afraid of having to make tough, selfish decisions with a lot of out-of-the woodwork people, but this is clearly a no-brainer. The decision was essentially made before my win even. Thanks again for your input and advice. Update. A few people have messaged me asking for an update on this situation. In a word, nightmare. Suffice to say, she was not happy when I told her that she needs to forget about the money for now, and that we had serious problems in our relationship from before the win that we kept sweeping aside, and all this has done is force us to have a conversation we needed to have anyways. It got heated pretty quickly, and I felt like we kept digressing into petty arguments about old stuff instead of sticking to the main issue. She suddenly took to calling me manipulative and emotionally abusive, which took me completely off guard, and had me scrambling to defend myself before it occurred to me that she was just trying to make me feel guilty again. After probably 4 or 5 hours of getting nowhere, I finally said that we are breaking up and there's nothing more to it. She got up from the couch, got her stuff, told me to go to fucking hell, and slammed the door. Next day, the texts and emails started to come in saying that no one will love me like she did. How it's sad to see how money has changed me so quickly, hoping I have fun banging superficial escorts, on and on and on. I ignore the messages. The next day she calls and I ignore the call, and she goes to voicemail, and says she is crying, and says she needs my help and has no one else to turn to, and to please call her. I don't call her back. Thursday night around 11:30 p.m. the police are knocking at my door. Apparently a neighbor's called in a loud domestic dispute from my apartment. I tell him I've been alone all night. He asks to take a look around, and I say sure. He says the neighbors who called is not answering their door nor their phone, and asks if I recognize the last 4 digits of a number, which I don't. So he asks if I know of any reason why someone would call the police making such a claim. I tell him I did recently break up with a G/F on the weekend, and we did yell, so either someone took their time to call, or my ex is not taking things well. We both agree it is strange. I decide not to ask her about it. Over the weekend, I get a few emails/texts and calls from her that start off sweet/nostalgic and end up angry and accusing me of throwing her to the side and being heartless, among other things. From the voicemails, I can tell she is drunk. I can't resist, so I ask her by email if she knew anything about the prank call to the police, which of course she denies, and then spins it back on me. Do I really think her so petty? Why would I ever think that? It just proves I never trusted her. Back to arguing, so I don't reply. So yesterday I log on to Facebook for the first time in a while, and I notice over the past few days she's been adding my friends as friends. Nothing else, but it freaks me out. I send her a message asking why she's adding my friends, and she essentially says it's a free country and that she couldn't have been so bad if my friends like her too. All to say, I am wary and I am depressed and lonely, and I have a feeling this is going to be a pain in the ass. Objectively, I know this was a good move, but subjectively, it's a whole other matter. Look forward to normal times. Sorry again for the rant. Final comments. Commenter 1. No one will love me like she did. Here's hoping, right? You should message your friends, though, and say that your ex is sending the cops to your house, and such, so they should watch out if she friends them out of nowhere. Reply. I've locked my FB privacy settings down and emailed some friends. My closest friends and family are well in the know already, of course. Commenter 3. Cut all ties. Burn the bridges block, numbers block on FB. Document harassment. Reply. Didn't think I'd need to block her number, but you are likely right. Commenter 4. Nah, you need to. Every single option for communication with you is an open door to her. She is going to try them all one by one until she finds an open one. She's like a raptor, systematically checking the electric fence for weaknesses so she knows where to attack, is what I'm saying. So do the right thing and turn the entire fence on so she can't get in no matter what. Stories number 2. Wife used my past and secrets against me. I feel broken. I do not even know how to write this because my head feels like it is splitting in two. I keep hearing the words again and again, and I cannot believe they came out of her mouth. Reposting caused there were some grammatical mistakes. We have been married 14 years. We built what I thought was a stable life together. 2 kids, our son who is 12 and our daughter who just turned 11. They are my entire world. When I look at them, I feel the kind of love I never knew existed, because the truth is I never experienced that kind of love as a child myself. That is something my wife has always known about me, though it took years before I could say it out loud. When we first got married, she noticed how I never talked about my parents. She noticed I avoided talking about childhood. She would tell me her stories, warm holiday memories, her parents decorating the house, sibling arguments that turned funny later. I would just nod and smile. She told me she wanted to understand me better, to really know me. Over the years, she kept pressing, until one day she begged me to open up. So I did. 7 years ago, I finally told her everything. I told her I was never meant to be here. I was the 4th child after 3 siblings, a failed contraception baby. An accident. That is the word my parents used. They reminded me constantly that they did not want me. It was not subtle. It was not hidden. It was spoken outright. I told her about the amusement park when I was 9. The day they tried to get rid of me. They left me behind on purpose. I knew it even at that age. They thought I would panic, wander off, disappear. What they did not expect was that I had already memorized the road home. Hours later they acted like it had been a mistake, like they lost me in the crowd, but I knew what it was. I knew what they had intended. I told her about the night my father wrapped his hands around my throat and squeezed until the world went dark at the edges. I could not breathe. My head felt like it would explode. To this day, I do not know why he let go. Maybe my mother walked in. Maybe something inside him pulled back at the last second. Whatever it was, I lived. Barely, but I lived. I told her about the food. How some nights everyone else ate, and I sat there watching. Not because we were poor. We had enough. But because I was excluded. If they bought something good, they shared it among themselves, never with me. I remember sitting at that table as a child, stomach empty, watching them laugh while I pretended not to exist. I told her how they never missed a chance to remind me I was an accident. My parents said it. My siblings picked it up. It became the running joke. That I should not exist. That I was the mistake they could not erase. I told her how once they admitted they had planned to abort me, but never went through with it. They said it with no hesitation, as if it were a casual piece of trivia, not a dagger to my chest. And I told her about the winter night when my father locked me outside as punishment for something I did not even do. I was maybe 10. It was freezing. I stood out there shivering, crying, my teeth rattling. I honestly thought I would not make it through the night. A neighbor eventually saw me and banged on the door until my mother opened it. That neighbor probably saved me. These are the things I poured out to my wife. It was not easy. I remember shaking as I said them. I remember how exposed I felt, like I had ripped open scars I had carefully hidden for years. She hugged me after. She told me she was glad I trusted her. She promised she would never throw those things back at me. Last night she broke that promise. We argued. It was stupid. It started with our son's homework. She said I was too soft on him, that I let things slide. I said she was too harsh. It escalated. We were both defensive. One of those arguments where you forget the point and just keep trying to win. And then she said it. She looked straight at me and said maybe my father should have finished what he started that night. I don't even deserve to have a family, let alone children. That maybe it would have been better if I had not survived. That I was never wanted anyway, and I was the one who told her so. I froze. I actually thought for a second that I misheard her. But she said it again, calmly, as if she believed she was simply pointing out a truth. I cannot describe what it did to me. I have had cruel things said to me before in my life. I have been insulted, mocked, belittled. I know how to brush words off. But this was different. This was the one person I let into the deepest part of me. She took my pain and turned it into a weapon. I just stood there in silence. I did not even yell back. I could not. It felt like something shattered inside me. The rest of the night, I barely spoke. She acted normal, like nothing had happened. I went to the spare bedroom and stayed there. I lay awake the entire night hearing her words over and over, blending with my parents' voices from years ago. Their cruel jokes, their reminders that I was unwanted, all coming back with her voice layered on top. I thought about the rage I carried as a teenager. How I used to wish my mother would die painfully. I thought those feelings were buried deep, but last night she dug them up and threw them right back at me. I cannot move past it. This morning she was cheerful, as if none of it had happened. I could barely look at her. All I could think was that something inside me had broken. I do not know if it can ever be repaired. Now I am sitting here thinking about divorce. Or at least separation. I do not even know how to start. I do not know what lawyer to call. I do not know how to explain to the kids why their parents are breaking apart. Part of me wonders if I am overreacting. If this is just a fight gone too far. But I know myself. I know I am not overreacting. Because I cannot imagine ever forgetting what she said. Usually I move on. From almost anything. I swallow pain, bury it, keep going. But this is not something I can just swallow. This is different. She went to the deepest wound I have and drove the knife in. I need to say this clearly. I need validation. I need someone to tell me I am not crazy for feeling this broken. I need condolences, because I feel like I am spiraling replaying her words in my head. I thought my past was behind me. I thought I had buried it and moved on. Last night showed me I was wrong. It is not buried. It is alive, and it can be used against me by the very person I trusted most. And I do not know how I could ever forgive that. Comments on the post. Commenter 1. You shouldn't divorce. Her words matter. It's over. Reply. IG so, thinking of starting with separation so that the children adjust a few weeks, then OFC, I am asking some people for advice regarding lawyers. Commenter 2. OP, for the love of God, please file for divorce. What she said is unforgivable. It's evil. No one with a soul or conscience would say something like that. The fact that it was cool and deliberate, and not in the heat of the moment, makes it worse. Commenter 3. You are not overreacting. She also knows what she's done. She didn't apologize. She didn't come and find out why you were in the spare bedroom. She knows. She's beyond all words, and she doesn't love you anymore. She said it because she doesn't want your relationship anymore. She wants you to look like the bad guy and be the bad guy. Don't let that happen. First thing you should do is get a therapist. Somebody to talk to. Talking things out will keep you sane and reinforce the knowledge that you are doing the right thing when she's spinning things and you feel crazy. Secondly, you want a divorce lawyer. They will point you to who deals with child custody if they can't. Thirdly, I would start looking for a place to live. You don't need to move into it right away. But it can be a place you can go when things are getting too much, and it gives you time to make it a home and a safe place. This way, when you leave, she can't beg you to stay because you actually have somewhere to go. It will give you the strength to walk out. You are going to be okay. What has been forced upon you is not okay, but you still have a future. Make it how you want it. Reply. Thank you very much for this thoughtful reply. Commenter 4. Brother, based on your last post, your wife is abusive and wants you to abuse your children. You need therapy to resolve some of this stuff. You need couples therapy to work through something like this. But ultimately, if my wife had told me that I was better off dead, my assumption would be that she's better off single, and I would take steps to make that happen. Protect your boys and continue doing the best you can for them. May the most merciful grant you peace. Commenter 5. Brother, I am really sorry for your painful childhood and your POS wife. Allah chose to give you life and took care of you against all the carelessness of His creation. Allah will continue to take care of you, and I trust your Akira will be in the company of Aliyah. You do not have to forgive your wife. If she was wise, she would see how the bad parenting you received informs the good parent you are. If she thought carefully, she would acknowledge your softness benefits her. It gives her a good partner. She is aware of what she did, and did it on purpose. If you chose to divorce, know that there are good women out there who would protect your heart. Reply. I know. I am not venting against all women, or most for that matter. It's just I can't process things anymore. Update. I waited until Tuesday. She went through the weekend and Monday like nothing had happened, a little colder than usual, quick with her answers, acting irritated like I was the one who had caused all of this. No apology, not even a hint. It felt like I was carrying something heavy while she just moved around it. By Tuesday afternoon, I couldn't hold it anymore. I asked her to sit down with me. The house was quiet. I told her I needed to talk about what she said during the fight, because this wasn't something we could just shrug off. I reminded her that the fight had started because I refused to hit our son while teaching. I told her I don't believe in beating kids to make them learn, and that she had pushed for it. That's where the argument began, and somehow it slid into something so much uglier. I asked her why she used what I told her in confidence against me. I reminded her that she had asked me to open up years ago, and promised she would keep it safe. I asked her why she hugged me back, then if this was where it would end up. At first, she was stiff. She said she didn't know what else she was supposed to do at the time. She told me she just tried to act normal, to be supportive, because she didn't know how to handle what I told her. She said she hadn't realized how heavy it all was until later. Her voice was even, like she was just explaining facts. I told her the promise mattered. I said it wasn't about a slip in anger. It was that she reached for the exact things I handed her in trust and turned them against me. I asked her again why. That's when she admitted it. She told me she lost some respect for me after I opened up. I asked what that meant. She said it wasn't one detail, it was the whole picture. She said she had always seen me as solid, someone who could carry weight without bending, the person she leaned on. But after I shared everything, she couldn't stop seeing the breaks under the surface. She said parts of my story made me look fragile to her. Some of the darker pieces, the way those years sat inside me, gave her an uneasy feeling she couldn't shake. Seeing me tear up and feel so nervous and like a wreck made her look very differently at me. She actually used the word ick. She said sometimes when she remembered those things, it got in the way of how she looked at me. I asked if that meant she thought less of me for surviving. She said it wasn't about surviving. It was about how it changed what she expected from me. She admitted she had built an image of me that didn't include those kinds of wounds, and once she knew, she couldn't put that image back. I asked her why she hugged me then, why she told me she wanted to know me fully. She said she didn't know what else to do in the moment. She didn't want to punish me for telling the truth. She said holding me and saying it was okay felt like the only decent response at the time, even though, inside, she had already started to see me differently. I let that sit, then asked the harder thing. She said she couldn't control herself in that moment, and she reached for what she knew would hurt me most. She said she regretted it and that it would never happen again. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it, piece by piece, only when she pressed me. If she wanted to know something, I answered. I didn't overshare, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, she probably only ever heard a fraction of what I actually live with. What makes this worse is that I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I wasn't unloading on her because I couldn't carry it myself. The only reason she even heard those parts of me was because she demanded it. She insisted I open up, insisted she wanted the whole picture. She told me she wanted to know me fully. And I believed her. I trusted her enough to hand over things I never planned on saying out loud. That's why this betrayal feels so much heavier. It wasn't me blurting out things I couldn't control, it was me handing her pieces of myself because she begged for them, swore she'd hold them safe. And then she took those same pieces and cut me with them. It feels like giving someone your heartbeat because they said they wanted to hold it close, and then watching them drive a knife straight through it. After she said all of that, I just sat there for a while. It was like I'd finally gotten the truth behind everything, but it didn't settle in cleanly. I wasn't shocked anymore, more resigned. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it bit by bit, only in response to her questions. If she wanted to know something, I told her. I didn't add anything extra, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, she probably only heard a quarter of what I actually carry. Why was she so intent on me being open and emotionally vulnerable then? I told her I didn't think I could just go back to how things were. I said I felt like the foundation was cracked in a way I couldn't ignore. I told her maybe the only way forward was to separate amicably, quietly, before things got any worse. I said I didn't think I could keep looking at her the same way, not after knowing she could turn something so personal into a weapon. That's when her whole tone shifted. The firmness she had when she explained herself dropped, and she sounded almost panicked. She asked me not to say that, said she didn't want a divorce. She told me she still loved me, that whatever she had done in anger wasn't bigger than the life we had built. She couldn't imagine splitting the kids between us, couldn't imagine them growing up in two houses. She told me leaving would scar them more than anything we had been through. I told her love isn't supposed to look like tearing each other apart with the sharpest words we can find. She said she knew that, and promised again that it wouldn't happen anymore. She said she had already admitted it was wrong, and she meant it when she said she'd never go there again. She kept circling back to the same point, that we had kids, that they needed us together, that whatever issues we had to fix them without breaking the family apart. She didn't cry, but there was a kind of desperation in her voice. Almost like she was afraid I was already out the door, and she was trying to pull me back any way she could. She didn't apologize again for what she'd said, not directly, but she kept stressing that it would never happen again, that I shouldn't throw everything away over one mistake. Right now, I haven't made a final decision. I keep going back and forth in my head. Part of me feels like the damage is too deep, and I'd be lying to myself if I pretended I could ever really see her the same way again. But another part of me hesitates, because walking away isn't simple when there are kids and years of life tied together. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't leaning more in one direction to end than the other, but I'm not there yet. I feel heavy most days, caught between wanting to protect myself and not wanting to tear my family in half. Some moments I think I know what I have to do, then I second guess it. It's draining, but at least writing this down and hearing different perspectives has made me feel less alone in it. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to read, comment, or even send me a message directly. It means more than I can put into words. I couldn't respond to every single individual, but I have gone through all of the comments, maybe even twice. Thank you, strangers. Comments on the post. Commenter 1. She wants you to focus on her and the kids more than yourself and the hurt that she caused you. This should tell you more than anything else. What she did was essentially respond with emotional blackmail and make you think that your actions are the reason the kids are going to be hurt and that the relationship is potentially falling apart. Literally a narcissistic response. Commenter 2. OP. She's trying to manipulate you. Her apology was a lie. She's not sorry. Her promise was a lie, so you can't trust her ever again. Go through with the divorce, but do not make it amicable or as friends. You didn't just drift apart mutually, she abused you. Commenter 3. Her not apologizing is what tears it for me. It signals that she still feels what she feels about you as she had described in her explanation. And frankly, that's what makes staying difficult, if not impossible. She can promise not to do it again. But if lack of control is the reason behind launching a devastating surgical attack with emotional abuse as her primary weapon of choice, then I'm afraid her promise might ring hollow. Lack of control is what a person with abusive tendencies say to excuse their behavior. If you still have access to a therapist, I'd strongly encourage you to seek out their counsel to work through your feelings and help gain clarity in deciding what to do moving forward. I wish you good luck and light with whatever you decide to do. Commenter 4. EW, she wanted you to hit the kids over homework? As someone raised hit over homework, that is abuse. This is further reinforced by the fact that she was disgusted by the fact that you're not abusive and have been abused and then abused you. She is abusive. Not only do you need to get out of there, but I would suggest evaluating whether your kids are safe with her. Protect yourself and your kids. Stories number 3. Woman pretends to be asleep in my seat while the plane is still boarding. I witnessed a small spat between two people on a flight earlier today regarding their seats, which reminded me of this experience I had about 10 years ago. I was on a flight to attend an annual convention happening on the other side of the country with two of my senior colleagues. It was the night before the first day of the event, so the entire flight practically consisted of people in the same industry. My colleagues were busy greeting or acknowledging people as we were walking along the airplane aisle to get to our seats. I was a rookie at the time. At any rate, a woman in early 30s was sitting in my seat. She was wearing oversized sunglasses along with a pair of studio headphones over her head. Moreover, she rested her hands neatly on her lap and had her head tilted back on the headrest, as if to suggest that she was asleep and not to be disturbed. Give me a break. Half of the plane hadn't finished boarding by this point. She ignored several of my initial verbal attempts at getting her attention. She ignored half a dozen gentle taps on her shoulder. When she finally awakened, I tried explaining to her that she was in my seat. But her response was to point at her headphones, then shrugging with both her hands upturned to gesture that she couldn't hear what I was saying. You could try taking them off. Nothing. Still playing dumb with no intention to take off her headphones. I think the reader can appreciate that I was starting to impede aisle traffic by this point. Not giving up, I then showed her my boarding pass, pointing at the printed seat number. She then mouthed "oh" as if she just understood what I've been saying all along. She then tucked in her knees half an inch into the seat and motioned me to pass by her like that. I had briefly considered whether to give her the crotch or the ass, but I chose to insist. When she tucked in her knees again at my another futile attempt at getting her to move to her own seat, I just about had it. I raised my voice and then said out loud that I'm not the one getting in, you are. To which she instantly recoiled and moved to the window seat without a word. The guy who was waiting behind me in the aisle gave me a thumbs up as he passed by. I thought that was that, but she was apparently still salty and wanted satisfaction. After the plane had taken off, she tapped on my shoulder and said she'd be open to switching seats with me if I wanted. I politely declined, albeit with an almost amused look in my face. Later, I was casually conversing with my colleagues seated across from me in their aisle seats. She tapped on my shoulders again and said that her offer extended to your friends. I gave a light chuckle and said sure. I knew what she was getting at along with her condescension, that she was someone in the industry. Too late. I already texted my colleagues after that little incident of ours, and both of them had Mariah carried her. She later circled back on this, whether if I'd asked my colleagues about their seat, yet to which I replied in the negative. She asked if I could please ask them, to which I'd always reply in the positive, sure, in a light-hearted manner. This exact exchange occurred between us not once, not twice, but thrice in the course of a 6-hour flight. To this day, I've never come across her professionally, so I'm not sure what exactly she was trying to achieve there. Comments. Commenter 1. After reading the start, I imagined that she'd just pretend to be deeply asleep and wouldn't react even to a shoulder shake, at which point I would have got a hostess involved. Help her. She's unresponsive. I don't know if she's having a medical issue or is on drugs. Commenter 2. Not a plane, but in a concert venue 2 nights ago. We did not have stage seats, but one level up and fairly close. Everyone in our section had a great view of the stage, and the only advantage of our seats, 3 of us, is that we were right next to the aisle, so easy to get in and out to the bar, bathroom, etc. This woman and her husband took their mid-row seats, entering from the other end of the row, and about 15 minutes later, stood and inched her way towards us, claiming we were in her seat. I looked her square in the eye and held up my phone screen showing my ticket because I saw her coming with the con game, and said no. No, we're not. She backed down immediately and returned to her seat, trying to laugh it off. Commenter 3. As a young adult, I was boarding an international flight, and it was business class. It was the 90s, was business class, and a man was in my seat, IMAF, and I told him he was in my seat. He got all pissed off and said his company booked him an aisle seat with his coworker, and you will have to sit in the middle. Nope. I've been flying alone internationally since I was 11. I'm not just going to give up my seat. Cabin crew stepped in and told him he needed to move to the middle seat. He flat out refused. He actually said, "Do you know who I am and what I do?" Nope, and we didn't care. I got a first-class seat. He got fired. When I got home, I told my parents the story, and they were annoyed. We had to host dinner for the new employees coming in from abroad. Guess who showed up? Yup, Asshat was the lowest employee on the team. I know it sounds made up, but it was the early 90s. Commenter 4. I had something like this happen to me recently. I was getting on a short 1-hour flight, and the plane is small, so that there's only 2 seats, aisle and 2 seats. When I make it to my row, the person in the aisle seat is sitting already. I stand waiting for her to let me through. She doesn't look at me. Then I get her attention by politely saying, "Excuse me," and she doesn't look up from her phone, but moves her legs out into the hallway. I look at her incredulously, and she tells me you have space, so I said fine, and I walk outside carrying the heaviest, bulkiest backpack cause overhead bins were full already, and slap her with it. She gets pissy and tells me what my problem is, and I just said I don't have a problem. It's just common sense to stand up. And she was huffing the rest of the flight. The flight attendant saw everything and didn't intervene once, so I took matters into my own hands. I swear people act so entitled more and more every day. Stories number 4. Aita for telling my mom I don't want to move back in after her husband kicked me out for how I feel about him and my half-sister. I 17F was kicked out of my mom and her husband's house 8 months ago when I was still 16. Honestly, I went more willingly than mom liked, but I didn't want to stay after everything went down like it did. My mom was upset and she insisted on us doing therapy ever since, and now she wants me back, and I don't want to go back. Okay, so things went down like they did because my mom read my journal. She told me she was concerned about certain behaviors or lack of behaviors and wanted to see what my feelings actually were because she didn't think I'd be honest with her if she asked. She told me her biggest worry was how distant I was with my half-sister, who was 3 at the time but turned 4 since I moved out. She said I typically adore kids and she thought I would be an adoring big sister to her, but she felt like I only showed her basic kindness as a kid and not actual family kindness and closeness, and she used me and my brother 20M and our relationship as an example. She told me it hurt to see me write that I didn't love my half-sister, and I treated her kindly not because I cared, but because I was just trying not to be a jerk. She said she didn't understand that and didn't like me feeling that way. Mom was almost begging me to tell her I didn't feel that way. She kept asking me to explain my feelings and trying to find anything in what I said that would prove I love and truly cared about my half-sister as family. Then she brought up the stuff I wrote about her husband and how he wasn't my dad, how I didn't really like him and how I didn't consider him my family, and I tolerated him for my mom because she loved him. She also brought up a part where I wrote that I thought he was an asshole for insisting I miss a paternal family member's wedding because it was his only day off, and he wanted a family day. Mom asked me was it really such a big deal to me, and I said it was because he interrupted time with my family. She was like, but we're a family, and I said she's my family, and technically my half-sister is, but he's just the guy she's married to. Her husband walked in at that point, and he went nuts, and he said he had listened to us the whole time, and he wanted me out of his house. That if he wasn't my father figure, and he was just some guy, and his daughter wasn't good enough for me, then I could leave. My mom told him to stop, and I wasn't leaving, but he said I was. That I could go be with the family I actually want since I didn't even want to spend one day with him over them. Mom started fighting with him while I texted my grandpa to pick me up, and I packed up my stuff. I left anything my mom and or her husband bought for me, so he couldn't say I would take his money, but not give him the title of family. My mom always said she wanted me back and tried to get me back. But now she's like we've been in therapy for a while. She can find a way to help us all bond, and we should all be a family under one roof again. The therapist asked her was she making me come back, and she said she wanted me to come back willingly, and that's when I told her I don't want to move back in with them. I said I'm happier staying with my grandparents and seeing her when we can. She told me it's not how we become a family though, and she cried. She said she really thought I would become more open to trying because I'd missed them so much. Comments. Commenter 1. Oh come on. Your mother knew all of that already. That's why she read your diary. Her husband has -0 authority over you, so it was her that denied you the chance to go to the family wedding you wanted to go to because he didn't want you to go because he is trying to replace your father and you aren't allowing him the chance. Has your father passed on? Stay with your grandparents. And you should prepare for a future where her husband says she's not allowed to see to you anymore and she chooses him. Reply. Yes, my dad died when I was younger. Reply commenter 1. There are certain types of people that view other people as property. It's an ego thing. He probably saw your mother with a minor daughter without a father and considered you both a package deal. As a result, he 100% expected you to place him at the top of your power ladder. Enabling that kind of BS is lunacy anyway, but he really can't do anything that your mother doesn't allow. As much of an as he is, it was your mother that has made her choices, and she chose him when she married him and moved in with him, and all that. She knew what he was, and what that would have meant for you. Commenter 2. NTA. Your mom has utterly failed as a parent by putting this man and your half-sister before you. Your mom needs to see how allowing you to be kicked out by him was an incredible betrayal. She also royally fucked up by reading your own private journal and demanding you guys discuss it. Your private thoughts sound reasonable, and it sounds like you were causing no issues there. You are entitled to your privacy. Protect your peace. Stay in an environment that is healthy for you. It is sad, but I think you are making the best decision for yourself. I'm sorry you are going through this so young. Wishing you the best. Reply. My mom wanted and still wants everyone to love everyone and be one happy family. She's pushed my brother in a similar way because he keeps in touch with her, but hasn't seen her husband or our half-sister in over 2 years. To her, it's tragic that I don't love my half-sister and don't want to be the best big sister ever to her. I think even me saying half-sister bothers her. Reply commenter 2. It honestly sounds like she is still more concerned with her own feelings and not yours. I would tell her that the more she does this, the more she is pushing you away if you feel that way, of course. She needs to parent the daughter she has, not the one she wished she had. By forcing this image of family and trying to force you to conform to it, she is alienating you. She isn't acknowledging and addressing your actual feelings. She's still trying to erase them. Commenter 3. What has the therapist said about your mother reading your journal? Why would you return to her knowing that she could do that again? As well as your stepfather listening in to what you thought was a private conversation with your mother. Reply. The therapist asked her if she still thought it was a good idea, and she said yes and no. No because of the invaded privacy, but yes because she needed to know how I felt. But also no because it's what started this whole me getting kicked out thing to begin with. Stories number 5. Aita tension after my father passed away, and I had to leave 36 hours later because of my in-laws. My in-laws stayed with my wife and me for 3 weeks to watch our toddler, while my wife and I were in the hospital having our second. Near the end of their visit, my dad unexpectedly became very ill, so I had to fly home to be with him. My MIL promised she, if not also my FIL, would stay a few days extra, no cost to them, as they were staying with us. She's retired and has no obligations for months. Sadly, my dad passed away the first day I was back home, and later that day I was told my in-laws couldn't extend their stay. They had zero reason other than they telling my wife they were tired, as though I wasn't after caring for a newborn and watching my dad die, and wanted to go home. They haven't explained it to me or apologized for this. As a result, I had to leave my hometown and grieving mother just 36 hours after my dad passed. I had to care for a newborn and toddler while still in complete shock and utter exhaustion so my in-laws could go back to their cushy life. They want to come visit in less than a month, and when I told my wife I'm not comfortable with that, given what they did, my wife said it made her uncomfortable and overwhelmed. She agrees what they did was awful, but won't say anything about it to them, and expects me to just accept them visiting despite how I feel. Aita if I set a boundary and insist I'm not comfortable with them coming so soon, or perhaps even just until we have a conversation. It's not just that they left me high and dry when I needed them most. It's that they didn't even reach out to me to explain or apologize. I'm just very hurt and very angry. Edit to clarify that they did not stay extra days. They left on their initially scheduled flight, after telling me they'd push it back. Additionally, my wife was less than 2 weeks removed from a C-section when I left and physically incapable of caring for a toddler and infant, so I had no choice but to come back. The only time my in-laws were primary caretakers of my toddler was the 3 days my wife and I were in the hospital. Otherwise, I primarily watched the toddler. Comments. Commenter 1. Tell them you're tired and unable to properly host them. You will reach out to them when you're ready to see them again. Actions have consequences, and your in-laws apparently never learned that lesson. Focus on your family and ignore outside distractions. Commenter 2. But also tell your wife to be a better partner. She should be standing up to her parents for you. Commenter 3. The woman weeks out from major surgery needs to be a better partner? Lady is probably hanging on by a thread herself. Commenter 4. NTA. And since wife won't say anything, you will have to, because their behavior was absolutely atrocious. A quick hey Mill. Phil, I heard you were planning on visiting. Well, that won't work for us right now. With the birth of our second child and my father's passing, we are not up for visits nor hosting. Commenter 5. I would be much more overt. Frankly, you and your wife can face this head on and tell them that they hurt you, or this can loom over the next 20 years of your life. Hi, Ills. I am grieving the recent and sudden loss of my father. I'm also deeply hurt by cruel treatment following his death, abandoning your daughter in her time of need, and forcing me to abandon my mother during the worst days of her life. I am not comfortable having you in my home at this time. I am surprised your wife is not more angry at her parents. They abandoned her. She was alone with a newborn baby and a toddler healing from a C-section. Best case scenario, her husband would return absolutely emotionally devastated and barely functional. That's what they chose for her, to put her through undue stress and push her and her spouse to exhaustion. And you know, obviously nobody has to do anything for anyone else. But I have a hard time imagining anyone I'm close to abandoning me in that moment, let alone my in-laws. Stories number 6. Husband is leaving me, but won't give me a reason. Don't really know the point of this post. No advice needed. Just a space to say what happened before I start telling my children and family. About 3 weeks ago, my husband and I had a long talk where he said he wasn't happy in our relationship. He didn't give me a specific reason, just that he was not happy. I asked him to put more effort in and see how we both feel after a holiday he was taking with his friends. Well, during the holiday, he rang me all day, every day, sent messages constantly, told me he loved me at the end of every conversation. It was so good having him be like that again. Today, after a few things happening that I wasn't happy about, I asked him how he was feeling, and he said he hasn't been happy for months, and that he wanted to separate. I asked him to do couples therapy. He said no. I asked if he was 100% sure this is what he wanted. He said yes. The conversation was a couple of hours long, but that's the gist of it. He says he loves me, but he's not happy when he comes home. I said, you realize that you're not happy with dinner on the table every night, a clean house, and a family that love you. I do 100% of the housework and pay half the bills. We've been together 17 years. This hurts so badly. How can he decide that he just doesn't want to be here anymore? We have 2 children. I asked him when he started feeling like this, He said it was before September. I had no clue at all. But you know what was happening at that time? My mother was dying of cancer. So I didn't pay as much attention to the relationship. I'm glad my mother didn't live to see this. She thought the world of him, and she was so sure he'd never do this. I can't believe this is happening. I can't afford the house by myself, even with child support payments. I'll probably have to move in with my 70-year-old dad once my rent contract is up. He'll not be happy about me and two teenagers uprooting his life. But I know I can rely on him. I am so angry. Comments. Commenter 1. I can almost bet that he is cheating. And why are paying half the bills and doing all the housework? Commenter 2. 100% he is cheating. Reply. I work less hours, usually 2 to 3 days a week. He works between 50 to 60 hours a week. It made sense for me to do the housework and cooking. Commenter 3. You should consider working full-time. Maybe you can afford rent with a job, alimony, and child support. Reply. No alimony where I am. I will be looking at getting a better job. I work less hours in the winter, more in the summer, so my pay will go up a bit anyway. I hope I can make it work with child support. Commenter 4. Until you guys stop living together, you need to try find a job with longer hours ASAP, and he will need to start doing half the household labor and looking after the kids fairly too, so you have the time to work as many hours as he gets to and get yourself financially ready to be independent. How old are the kids? Are you going to do 50-50 custody? Will be interesting to see how he goes doing 100% of the cooking and cleaning for himself if he's never done that. Unless he is cheating and already has a replacement lined up to do all the household labor for him, so he doesn't have to. Reply. Kids are teenagers. They'll stay with me and visit him. We already touched on this a little. Rent prices where we live are crazy high. He'll probably rent a room in a shared house, so not ideal for my kids. He also works about an hour's drive away, and he'll be looking to move closer to work so the kids won't see him during the week because of school. Update. So many people commented saying that he was cheating, and he was. The full story came out a couple of months after the separation. He had been sleeping with someone from work. I just found out that he is living with her. A while ago he asked me to forgive him, and he asked if he could come home. I said no. He hurt me way too much to be able to come home. So now they live together. I'm having some sort of feelings about this, but I'm actually much happier. My house is so peaceful. I love that I live with just my kids. The freedom is unreal. Without him, I can do what I want. There's no one to tell me to wash clothes, cook dinner, or expect sex. I'm 100% sure he treats his girlfriend better than how he treated me. I even got myself a boyfriend. It's early days, but he treats me unbelievably well. I'm so hopeful for the future. Thanks for reading. And to those who gave me advice and told me he was cheating. You were right. I'm glad he's gone. Comments. Commenter 1. My husband would say, there's a problem here, but he's her problem now. Talk about the trash taking itself out. Commenter 2. You should tell her. Commenter 3. Doing this would depend on if the AP knew he was married at the start. Working together, I'm willing to bet she knew about OP, and if that's the case, well, if he cheats with you, he'll cheat on you. Woman shrugging. Reply. She's knows. Southern. Midnight 7:41. How are your children taking this? Reply. Now that he's coming to see them and bringing them to his house, they are much better. It was them that told me about the girlfriend. I didn't give much of a reaction to the news, just asked if they met her, which they didn't. Commenter 4. They aren't upset with their father? Reply. They don't know he cheated. As far as they're aware, she's just a new girlfriend. I won't be telling them he cheated, although the truth always comes out eventually, and when they're older I'm sure they'll figure it out, and I'll tell them the full story. Commenter 5. Really respect this. They'll find out one day, but it's big and commendable of you to put them first and spare them the additional pain, trauma, and conflicting emotions of finding out now. You're a good mom and person. His loss. This too shall pass, and you will one day be so much happier. Stories number 7. My wife's traumatic childhood is killing my marriage. I've 46 and been married to my wife 45F for 20 years. We have 3 teenage kids. Until recently, I would have said we had a wonderful marriage. But as I look back, I think out of pure love and obsession, I've been looking at things with rose-colored glasses. We met in college. Her best friend went to the same college as me, and that's how we met. She had a tough upbringing. Her mom was very young, was she born, and her parents were never married. She didn't meet her biological dad until she was in her 30s, which is story for another day. Her mom isn't really a good person, and they are no contact with one another. Until my wife was a teenager, she shared a bedroom with her mother in her grandparents' house. They were more like sisters. When she a teenager, Her mom got married to another awful person. She had an affair with a married guy. Eventually, he got divorced and married my MIL. He had 2 kids, who were slightly older than my wife. Imagine what that was like. Merged 2 families with teenage kids. Their dad cheated on their mother, and then shacked them all up in one house. I can't imagine. There are countless stories of the horrors my wife went through as a child. Her mom told her she should have aborted her, tried to push her out of a moving car. There were smacks and slaps. My wife was never complimented growing up. I have never heard my MIL compliment my wife. My wife was always smart, did well in school, didn't get in trouble, helped around the house, cooked for her family. She was, and is very pretty. Her mother only criticized her, and it was constant. As if that wasn't bad enough, she was sexually assaulted in college by some friend of her stepbrother. To say that this has taken a mental toll is the understatement of the century. I have loved her with every sense of my being, have supported her in her therapy. I am by no means a perfect husband, but I have tried my best to be supportive and loving. Anyway, fast forward to today. I've been married for over 20 years. My wife obviously has a lot of issues stemming from the above. I love her more than anything in the world, but it hasn't been easy. I've borne the brunt of some pretty outlandish treatment, and I'm wondering if I have been blinded by love, and if this is not a safe and healthy environment for me. I don't know if I could ever leave, don't know if I could do that to her, or do that to my kids. But I'm starting to feel like I am only here to serve the purpose of providing support, financial, emotional, physical, parenting. Here are some of the things that have happened. About 5 years ago, we had gone to a beach location for a long weekend with a lifelong friend of mine and his family. It was an all-around great time. One night, while we were leaving an amusement park, we were walking with the kids for ice cream. We walked past a bar, and a baseball game was ending. My friend and I say to the wives that we want to grab a drink and watch the end of the game, while they get ice cream next door. Everyone seemed fine with it. This is something I never do. My friend and I were gone 20 to 30 minutes. When we got home, my wife lost it. Couldn't believe I abandoned the family for a half-hour tops while they ate ice cream. This was the first time she hit me. She punched me 4 times and threw a chair at me. I was shocked. This pattern escalated over the next few months. She slammed the shower door on me, breaking it and effectively trapping me, naked, in the shower. If she hadn't brought me a screwdriver to remove the shower door, I'd still be in there. Right before the holidays in 2019, for months after this hitting started, my wife had a disagreement with my daughter. My wife made a mistake and said something she shouldn't have. It should have been easily fixable with a quick apology, but my wife turned it into WW3 with my daughter, which I thought was unnecessary, but my wife and I put up a unified front with our kids and addressed things later. After my daughter went to her room punished, my wife and I went into our room. I tried to calm my wife down, but apparently she wanted me to match her level of outrage, and my wife unleashed the fury on me. She punched me countless times. I ended up with a bloody nose and cut beneath my eye. I am over 6 feet tall and a pretty fit guy. My wife is almost a foot shorter than me and maybe 80 pounds lighter than me. I sat there and let her punch me countless times. I remember being frozen and also being afraid. I didn't even want to grab her hands out of fear I would be blamed for the fight and arrested. She was unhinged, screaming as she pummeled me. It was awful. It was really fun to coach my daughter's basketball game with a badly bruised and cut-up face the next day. After this, I freaked out. I realized the situation had gotten way out of hand. My wife apologized profusely. I said I couldn't go on like this. Our kids heard the commotion, and we later had to talk to them about it. I told my wife this wasn't safe for me. She had a near breakdown out of fear I would leave her. She discussed with her therapist. We went to couples therapy for the first time. It was a mess. I've come to realize that therapists, or at least the ones we have seen, focus on the patient with the most needs. Given my wife's past, she has the most mental health issues, and so that is where the focus was. It was really hard to be put on the back burner. COVID came, and the couples therapy stopped. We tried again last year, and that was worse for the same reasons. What else has this marriage been like? Well, we've always been very sexually active. My wife is very beautiful. She gets attention anywhere she goes, although she usually seems oblivious to it. I sometimes feel infatuated with her. But she grew up with a mother that hated her and constantly took her down. I have always complimented her. Her beauty, her intellect, how wonderful of a mother she is, how incredible of a cook she is, how incredible of a hostess she is for holidays. She's amazing in so many ways. I think I'm good looking but nothing special. I'm in good shape, but I'm going bald and I've aged. Most people would say this guy is punching above his weight. I was good with this for a long time, but I think as I started to feel somewhat insecure as I aged. I'm not particularly vain or anything, but I looked for reassurance from her about my physical appearance. For the first time in my life, I felt insecure. I almost felt embarrassed. She didn't come through for me, quite the opposite. She had never really complimented me about my appearance our whole relationship. Maybe she's just brutally honest. One night after we were intimate, she told me how small I was. This was a completely unsolicited comment after 15 years together. I think I'm average down there. I have measured myself, and I'm just under 6 inches. I always thought she was pleased, so hearing a complaint in that department was quite a blow. She later admitted she said it to hurt me out of some sort of anger. She wasn't even sure what she was mad about. She's tried to walk that back, but it's been tough. Not long after that, I asked her what was physically attractive about me. I was just looking to feel better about myself. She told me there was nothing. Those were her words. And she was kind of shocked that I was taken aback by that and hurt by it. Hey, I asked, so I guess I deserve it. She's tried to walk that back a lot over the years as well. Around that time, we went to dinner and I sort of said, hey, I'm over 40, and for the first time ever, I'm feeling anxiety and stress over work, the kids, and life, etc. I asked if she could try to be more supportive and caring. She said no, that she was a good wife already and was providing support already. She couldn't do any more. We actually talked through a lot of it. I expressed how it made me feel. She apologized for what she said. She's actually way more giving of compliments than she has ever been. She has improved there. But it feels forced. Only being said 'cause I asked her to. Doesn't always feel sincere. I have discussed it at length in therapy, and I'm basically good with my appearance and what I cannot control, but I still think it was unnecessarily mean of her. My wife has a massive fear of abandonment and has massive trust issues. She regularly accuses me of cheating. I have been nothing but faithful. I have to travel some for work, on average about 3 days a month, some months more and months less. She regularly wakes me up in the middle of the night to FaceTime to see if anyone is in my room. There has obviously never been. One night last year, I had to travel to give an important big presentation. Had to give it first thing in the AM. I prepared for weeks, and it was stressful. I am presenting the work of my team, so pressure is on me to show the good work everyone has done. My wife and I spoke around 10 o'clock, talked for about a half hour, and I went to bed. At 2 a.m., I woke up to banging on the hotel door. She had somehow convinced the hotel manager, huge national hotel chain. So I'm not sure how this is compliant with their policies to check on me because of an emergency. I realized I had maybe 10 missed calls and maybe 30 text messages from her. I had been asleep. So we FaceTime. We confirmed there is no one there in the room with me. She wasn't sorry or anything. She was mad that it took her so long to get a hold of me. I was now wide awake and had to give this presentation. Then had to work a full day, attend a work dinner, on basically 3 hours of sleep. My wife has always been insanely jealous of other women. My first boss after college was like 4 years older than me. Her husband worked at the same company. My wife hated her, I guess 'cause I would talk about her. She was the person I worked closest with. I basically gave up any female friendships that I had. Not that I was particularly close with any other women. One thing that was a particular issue for her was bachelor parties when all my friends were getting married. She hated the idea of me going to a strip club. Okay, fine. I don't particularly enjoy strip clubs. Nothing against the workers there, but I just see it as they just want my money and I don't need to pay to see a really attractive woman. So anyway, neither of us had strippers or anything like that at our bachelor/bachelorette parties. I had a great time at mine. We played golf, went to an awesome dinner, and then gambled afterwards. Anyway, some friends of mine did go to strip clubs for their bachelor parties. I always told my wife, and she wanted me to attend. I offered to skip that part, but I don't think she wanted to be seen by my friends or the other wives as controlling or a stick in the mud. I really don't know, but she wanted me to stay in contact the entire time. It was a little over the top, but I did it. I would literally text her nearly the entire time I was there, describing the situation, just talking about the night. Not sure why I even went to that part of the bachelor party. This happened 3 or 4 times. When I got home, I got the 3rd degree. She examined me, smelled me, examined my body for evidence, examined my underwear. It was crazy. Before the last one, I said I don't want to do this. I don't even want to go. But she didn't want that. She wanted to go and stay in touch. She promised to back off some, but she didn't really. At one point, a bouncer came over and told me to put the phone away when I was texting. So I did. I guess he was worried I was taking pictures. No, I wasn't taking pictures, I was staying in touch. Typing this out makes me realize how ridiculous it was. All of this would have been no big deal. These bachelor parties all happened over 10 years ago. Recently, she was talking about her BF's bachelorette party, which was years ago. My wife was the maid of honor. She had always insisted that she never went to a strip club ever. Well, recently, my wife said something about the men pulling her friend up on stage and embarrassing her. I was like, where was this? Even in that moment, I wouldn't have cared that they went to a strip club. I trust her. Or until all this, I fully trusted her. She insisted this was at a typical bachelorette party restaurant. That wasn't a strip club. I don't know what that is. Does anyone know? I said that it felt like she wasn't being honest. She was offended. I said that I thought that the real issue was that she thought I might have put her through the same thing she put me through. I said I didn't like it, but it was so long ago, I don't really care. But she doubled and tripled down. So she goes to the other room and texts her BF and comes back and hands me the phone to show me the texts. She asks the friend, "Did we go to a strip club for your bachelorette party?" Which seems like an odd question to ask someone out of the blue, and the responses seemed odd. So I asked my wife, "Is this the full text exchange? It feels like something is missing." So I look in her deleted texts, and sure enough, there are deleted texts. I restore it, and the response from the friend is, "Oh, that is a definite yes." So I look at my wife shocked. I don't even know why she went down this path. She says her friend is wrong. Now I'm annoyed, and I'm asking what happened that you would lie about this. What did you do? Horror stories about bachelorette parties are running through my mind. We have an argument over this where I am gaslit to hell. Doesn't remember, her friend is wrong. That's why she deleted the text. She didn't cheat or do anything wrong. All the comments about her level of attraction to me come back to my mind. No real resolution, but she promises me that she will figure out exactly happened. Fast forward about a month to a holiday party we went to. We see her BF for the first time in a few months. Of course, they talk a lot amongst themselves, which is obviously fine. We leave, and 20 minutes later, we are in the car driving home, and she gets a text. It's from her BF. It includes a screenshot from one of their other friends, and the BF text says, "Wife, and I just cannot remember what we did for my bachelorette party. Do you remember?" And the response is this whole description of a comedy show that they went to. The entire thing is so contrived, it's almost comical. There is no way this is true, and it is so clear that they discussed this at the party we were just at, and they came up with this plan. I feel so manipulated. My wife is in the passenger seat, and she is almost giddy reading the texts and saying how they have now solved the mystery. I have no idea what happened at that bachelorette party, but the whole story and the lying was so unnecessary. She's still holding firm to her story, whatever it is. I wouldn't have even cared if they went to a strip club, cause I trusted my wife. But this story has made me lose trust. And now all the abuse over the years is coming back to me and making me see things differently. Have I ever been loved? Is my wife capable of love? Did she cheat on me? Am I the world's biggest fool? I love her and the family we have created. Obviously, there are so many positives to our relationship that I didn't list. But can all the positives in the world make up for all this? Edit. First, all comments in the DMs have been so caring and kind. Even the ones trying to smack some sense into me. There is a lot of love out there from kind strangers. Thank you. Based on an exchange in my DMs, I'm sharing that the physical abuse did stop 5 years ago. She worked with her former therapist who specialized in CBT, and she is more in control of herself. I'm not sure she fully acknowledges the pain this has caused me and the kids. And all this other nonsense has continued. I'm not sure this changes anything for me though. Update. Wife's disclosure. I posted several months ago about my 20-year marriage and how much nonsense I have put up with. People mostly gave harsh but good advice to me. I wanted to give an update and come back for more advice. This is long, so feel free to skip of the ramblings of a middle-aged dad of 3 aren't of interest to you. So back in February, I insisted on a 2-month separation. We told the kids I was traveling for work, and when I was home, that my wife was traveling to meet friends. My wife hated every second of the separation. I had some conditions for returning. We tried marriage counseling again, 3rd counselor. This one was better, I guess. But my requirement was that my wife take the lead, find the therapist, give all the backstory on the abuse, the insults, etc. She did all that. I further insisted that she tell the complete truth on anything inappropriate that has ever happened with another guy, including at her friend's bachelorette party. This took a while. At first, she held to the same story. Then she started saying things like she was working on it with her therapist. Working on how to tell me. She somehow didn't understand that a statement like that was awful for me to bear. Obviously, my wind went to all the worst places. I ended the separation in April with the idea she was making progress. We discussed her physical abuse of me a lot in therapy. The abuse really peaked in late 2016 to 2018. She told me at that time that she became very resentful of me. I had gotten a promotion and she overall felt everyone thought I was awesome and she was jealous. At the same time, she got into excellent shape. She's always been very attractive, but at that time my youngest was like 6 to 8 years old, and she still had some baby weight. She shredded that baby weight and looked incredible. I guess I had gained some weight around that time, and she thought she didn't get enough attention or credit relative to me. I don't know. She says these things very matter-of-factly. She did a lot of CBT work and specific work for abusive partners. She owned it with the kids, and we had several good conversations. I thought we were turning a corner. I had been frustrated by the lack of disclosure on her friend's bachelorette party. So in June, I said I was leaving again. She actually handled this much more calmly and maturely. We still saw each other and even did date nights. We were even intimate. Not sure what the separation was. So she said she would focus on what happened and was getting ready to share anything and everything with me. A couple of weeks ago, she asked me to join a session with her therapist. She wanted to do a therapeutic disclosure. I wanted to throw up. I go to the therapist's office and she proceeds to tell me how at her friend's actual bachelorette, they went to some show, no strippers, just drinking and silliness. Then she says that her friend's work friends threw her a bachelorette at a hotel. And there were strippers there. In my wife's words, it was wild. Now, context for this is in my prior post. I really don't care if she saw strippers. I care more about the double standards she applied and the lying, as she treated me like crap whenever friends of mine went to strip clubs for their bachelor parties. She said that she never touched any stripper even though multiple approached her many times, at first in G-strings and eventually fully naked. Lovely, but that's all that happened. Who knows if it's true? I don't care anymore for reasons I'm about to get into. This is all in front of this therapist. So then she says that I asked if there was anything with any guy that she hasn't told me. If this wasn't long enough, brace yourselves. She had this other friend who was in the middle of a divorce in 2016. Friend was a fitness instructor at a gym. Friend met a retired professional athlete at the gym. I remember the friend being obsessed with this guy, all while technically still married. Well, my wife and this friend would go out and meet up with retired athlete and his entourage. My wife would effectively play wingman for her friend. And one of the entourage took an interest in my wife. My wife claims nothing ever happened other than flirting, but that when they were out, this guy always had his arm around my wife, constantly groped her ass, often tried to kiss her, sent dick pics, bought her a thong bikini for her to send pics back to him. My wife said she never wanted it, but never fought it, liked the attention and mostly wanted to support her friend. Friend eventually had a falling out with the retired athlete who moved away. So that whole thing sucks. So I'm completely stunned. Wife is crying. Therapist is spewing some nonsense about my wife's bravery. That I requested disclosure of anything that might have been remotely inappropriate, and she has come through for me. I leave. Wife follows. Phone starts blowing up. It's my wife's best friend who calls 10 times. She then starts texting me, swearing to me that what my wife is saying is true. There were strippers at Bach party number 2, but wife did nothing. Texts start pouring in from her other friends confirming this story. And then I get a text from her friend who paired up with the athlete. And she confirms that story. Wife was only doing her a solid, taking one for the team. So great. Let's get a few more people involved in my life, my humiliation, the crumbling of my marriage. She could talk to all these other people about all this, but not me. She needed a therapist there to talk to me about it. It just feels like one big manipulation. So anyway, I feel completely done. I still love my wife because I guess I'm just a simp. We are separated. I have spoken to a lawyer. My kids know and are furious with me cause I am the one leaving. Be kind to your partners, people. Love them and respect them. I adored my partner and still do, but it wasn't enough. Stories number 8. Aita for publicly humiliating my wife at her workplace after discovering her affair. I don't even know where to begin. My wife, Leah 43F, and I have been married for 10 years. We have two beautiful children, our 5-year-old son and our 2-year-old daughter. I thought we were happy, or at least, I thought we were trying. But 4 weeks ago, my entire life came crash down. I 46M started to notice when she was glued to her phone more than usual. Leah has always been private, but this was different. She'd smile at her screen, then immediately lock it when I walked into the room. One night, after she fell asleep, I couldn't resist. I checked her phone. What I found still makes me sick to my stomach. There were messages with a coworker, Eric 48M, going back years. Explicit texts, photos, promises of love, even references to secret trips they'd taken while I was at home with the kids, believing she was working late. My heart was racing, my hands trembling. I confronted her the next morning. At first, she denied it, said I was misunderstanding. But when I read her the messages out loud, her face crumbled. She admitted it. She said it started 4 years ago, long before our youngest was born. She tried to justify it. You were distant, we were struggling. But nothing could excuse this. I started digging deeper. I followed her to work one day, needing to see it for myself. Sure enough, after her shift, she walked out arm in arm with Eric. They didn't even try to hide it. They got into his car and drove off. I followed them to a restaurant where they sat like a happy couple, laughing, holding hands. It broke me. But what shattered me completely was when I learned they'd built their own life together. They'd been renting an apartment near work, a place where she'd go when she was working overtime. I saw them go inside, watching them from my car parking on the streets, a few blocks away. I checked on them for about 4 nights, and they had the same routine. That's when I snapped. I packed all of her belongings, everything she owned, into the back of my car and drove to her work place the next morning after spying on them. I know I did wrong. When she walked out, I dumped everything right there on the sidewalk in front of her and her coworkers. I told her she wasn't coming home. Since then, I filed for divorce and am fighting for the full custody of the kids. She's begging me to forgive her, saying she doesn't want to lose the family we built. But how can I? Friends and family keep asking me if I regret how I handled it, publicly humiliating her, kicking her out without notice. I do. She tore our family apart, and the least she could do is face some accountability. But I can't help but feel like the bad guy for how I acted. I had nights where I felt very lonely, and I miss her. Of course, I am also attending to therapy sessions to be better for the kids and for myself. All I care about are them. They don't deserve this chaos. And as much as it hurts, I know they are better off with me than someone who could live a lie for so long. Am I the asshole? Comments. Commenter 1. The only thing to worry about at this point is a DNA test. Commenter 2. Your SDBX had no problem making her affair public, so she has no right to cry about you making the divorce the same. I really hate it when people claim to want to make a relationship work after they were outed in an affair, but they did nothing to stop it while it was ongoing. The time for possible forgiveness was when she came to you and admitted she had an affair, ended it, and wanted to make things right with you. NTA. Commenter 3. Be worried about DNA test. NTA. Commenter 4. Nope. NTA. When she became unhappy in your marriage, she should have came to you to fix it, not crawl into bed with her coworker. Marriage is a partnership, and she stepped out. You have every valid and good reason to leave her because of it. Honestly, you could leave someone because you hate the way they brush their hair. You're unhappy, and leaving is the right choice. No one wants to live in a home where mommy cheated on daddy and daddy hates her. Leaving and building a new life is the best step. Good job. I would have done the same exact thing. Update. Turns out my wife's affair was worse than I thought. For those asking how I didn't notice her affair for 4 years, it's because Leah was always incredibly private. She was adamant about boundaries and would shut me down if I asked too many questions. She handled the rent, utilities, and her own expenses, while I covered groceries, the kids' school costs, internet, water, and anything extra. She claimed it was fair since we both worked, and I didn't push because I trusted her and didn't want to create unnecessary conflict. Looking back, I can see how I missed the signs, but at the time, I didn't think questioning her was necessary. After finding out about her affair, I had DNA tests done for both kids. My son is biologically mine, but my daughter isn't. That was a tough pill to swallow, but it doesn't change anything for me. I've been her father in every way that matters, and I love her like my own. I believe the person who raises a child is their real parent, and no court is going to convince me otherwise. Right now, I'm in the middle of the legal process. The divorce itself hasn't been finalized yet, but I've made it clear that I'm fighting for full custody of both kids. I've explained to the court why I believe Leah isn't fit to have primary custody. Her betrayal wasn't just a personal one. It shows a complete disregard for the stability and well-being of our family. The court process is slow, and so far, we've only had preliminary hearings. I've provided evidence of her infidelity and the double life she led, and I've asked for a full psychological evaluation for both of us to ensure the best decision is made for the kids. I'm also working on showing the court that I've been the primary caregiver emotionally and financially. My lawyer has told me it's a tough battle, especially since courts often lean toward joint custody, but I'm not backing down. To those who said my story sounded fake, I get it. This is the kind of nightmare you think only happens in movies or to someone else. I wouldn't believe it either if I wasn't living it. All I can say is, I hope you never go through something like this. It destroys everything you thought you knew about your life. For now, I'm staying focused on my kids and doing everything I can to give them a stable and loving home. They're the only good thing to come out of all this, and I won't let them down. Thank you for your support. It means more than you know. Comments. Commenter 1. I don't understand why she just didn't get a divorce, but instead wasted 4 years of your life and fucked up the kids' lives. She is a selfish person and deserves all the wrath that is headed her way. Stay strong, OP. Commenter 2. Oh man, I was so worried about you doing a DNA test when I read your original post. I'm very proud of you for pushing this process on and taking it seriously. Wishing you get the full custody you're asking for. Commenter 3. Oh man, I feel so sorry for everything you've been through. But also, shout out to you for being such an amazing father. Your kids are very lucky to have you. Also, I hope everything goes smoothly and well for you after the divorce is finalized. Commenter 4. Honest truth. This was never about who you are as a person or what you have or haven't done during your relationship. This is all about your partner making intentional choices to betray you without guilt or respect for your relationship. Her cheating is a reflection of her character and lack of moral compass. What you are feeling is natural, but please know that you deserve better. Update. I got full custody after my wife's affair. Here's how life looks now. It's been about 9 months since my last update, and a lot has happened since then. The legal process has been slow, as anyone who's gone through family court probably knows. There were several hearings where both sides presented evidence, and we both had to undergo psychological evaluations. In my case, the evaluator focused on my ability to provide stability, consistency, and emotional support for the kids. I was able to show through records and testimony that I'd always been the primary caregiver, handling school enrollment, doctor visits, groceries, and day-to-day routines. That, combined with the fact that I'd been the steady financial provider, weighed heavily in my favor. The evaluations weren't easy. They involve long interviews, written tests, and even observing how you interact with your children. It's draining, but it made sense because the court wants to see if you're equipped emotionally and mentally to raise kids on your own. Leah went through the same process, and ultimately, the reports showed that while she loves the kids, I was the parent who had been consistently responsible for their well-being. I also made a major life change. I left my old job and switched to working fully remote from home so I could give the kids the time and attention they need. It hasn't been easy financially, but it's worth every sacrifice. Being present for them every day, breakfast, school runs, bedtime, has given them a sense of stability, and it's given me peace of mind knowing I'm there when they need me. The court granted me full custody. That said, we agreed that Leah could come visit the kids on Saturdays, at our house, with me supervising. At first, I worried how it would go, but the visits have been civil. The kids are happy to see their mom, and I keep it focused on them. Leah has made attempts to talk about our relationship again, but I'm not changing my mind. This is only about the kids now. It hasn't been easy on them. They ask questions, especially my son, about why things changed. I never go into details. I tell them that mom and dad had problems, but what matters is that they are loved by both of us. I've also put us into family therapy. Every Friday, we sit down with a child psychologist, the 3 of us, and talk about feelings in a safe way. I've explained to them that none of this is their fault, and that they don't need to feel anger toward anyone. Sometimes they still struggle, but the therapist has been a huge help. Personally, I still see my own therapist. The depression and loneliness sneak up on me some nights, but talking it through and focusing on my kids helps me move forward. The divorce itself isn't finalized yet because these things drag on, but the custody arrangement is in place, and that's what I care about most. At the end of the day, despite everything, I'm grateful. Grateful for my kids. Grateful that Leah and I can at least cooperate for their sake. And grateful that therapy has given me tools to be stronger for them. My life looks nothing like what I imagined a couple years ago, but these kids are my anchor, and I'll keep doing whatever it takes to give them the home they deserve. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you. These kids are very fortunate to have you. Keeping doing what you're doing, and that healing will eventually come. Commenter 2. Congratulations. Are you at least getting child support from her in order to offset some of the financial burden? Reply. Yeah, child support is part of the case. Since the divorce isn't finalized yet, the amount hasn't been set by the court, but it's automatically factored in once custody is decided. Right now I've got temporary full custody, so my lawyer already filed for support, and the court will decide based on her income. It doesn't take away the financial stress completely, because I'm still covering almost everything, but it helps. Switching to remote work to be home cut some costs like childcare. The main thing for me was stability for them, and then figuring out the money as we go. Commenter 3. Do your ex and her partner know that you are not the biological dad to your youngest? Reply. Yeah, they both know. It came up during the custody process because I had DNA testing done early on. At the end of the day, it doesn't change anything because I've been raising her since birth, and the court recognizes me as her legal father. She's my daughter in every way that matters. Stories number 9. Wife used my secrets and past against me. I feel broken. I do not even know how to write this because my head feels like it is splitting in two. I keep hearing the words again and again, and I cannot believe they came out of her mouth. Reposting cause there were some grammatical mistakes. We have been married 14 years. We built what I thought was a stable life together. 2 kids, our son who is 12 and our daughter who just turned 11. They are my entire world. When I look at them, I feel the kind of love I never knew existed. Because the truth is I never experienced that kind of love as a child myself. That is something my wife has always known about me, though it took years before I could say it out loud. When we first got married, she noticed how I never talked about my parents. She noticed I avoided talking about childhood. She would tell me her stories, warm holiday memories, her parents decorating the house, sibling arguments that turned funny later. I would just nod and smile. She told me she wanted to understand me better, to really know me. Over the years, she kept pressing, until one day she begged me to open up. So I did. 7 years ago, I finally told her everything. I told her I was never meant to be here. I was the 4th child after 3 siblings, a failed contraception baby. An accident, that is the word my parents used. They reminded me constantly that they did not want me. It was not subtle. It was not hidden. It was spoken outright. I told her about the amusement park when I was 9. The day they tried to get rid of me. They left me behind on purpose. I knew it even at that age. They thought I would panic, wander off, disappear. What they did not expect was that I had already memorized the road home. Hours later they acted like it had been a mistake, like they lost me in the crowd, but I knew what it was. I knew what they had intended. I told her about the night my father wrapped his hands around my throat and squeezed until the world went dark at the edges. I could not breathe. My head felt like it would explode. To this day, I do not know why he let go. Maybe my mother walked in. Maybe something inside him pulled back at the last second. Whatever it was, I lived. Barely, but I lived. I told her about the food. How some nights everyone else ate, and I sat there watching. Not because we were poor. We had enough. But because I was excluded. If they bought something good, they shared it among themselves, never with me. I remember sitting at that table as a child, stomach empty, watching them laugh while I pretended not to exist. I told her how they never missed a chance to remind me I was an accident. My parents said it. My siblings picked it up. It became the running joke. That I should not exist. That I was the mistake they could not erase. I told her how once they admitted they had planned to abort me, but never went through with it. They said it with no hesitation, as if it were a casual piece of trivia, not a dagger to my chest. And I told her about the winter night, when my father locked me outside as punishment for something I did not even do. I was maybe 10. It was freezing. I stood out there shivering, crying, my teeth rattling. I honestly thought I would not make it through the night. A neighbor eventually saw me and banged on the door until my mother opened it. That neighbor probably saved me. These are the things I poured out to my wife. It was not easy. I remember shaking as I said them. I remember how exposed I felt, like I had ripped open scars I had carefully hidden for years. She hugged me after. She told me she was glad I trusted her. She promised she would never throw those things back at me. Last night she broke that promise. We argued. It was stupid. It started with our son's homework. She said I was too soft on him, that I let things slide. I said she was too harsh. It escalated. We were both defensive. One of those arguments where you forget the point and just keep trying to win. And then she said it. She looked straight at me and said maybe my father should have finished what he started that night. I don't even deserve to have a family, let alone children. That maybe it would have been better if I had not survived. That I was never wanted anyway, and I was the one who told her so. I froze. I actually thought for a second that I misheard her. But she said it again, calmly, as if she believed she was simply pointing out a truth. I cannot describe what it did to me. I have had cruel things said to me before in my life. I have been insulted, mocked, belittled. I know how to brush words off. But this was different. This was the one person I let into the deepest part of me. She took my pain and turned it into a weapon. I just stood there in silence. I did not even yell back. I could not. It felt like something shattered inside me. The rest of the night, I barely spoke. She acted normal, like nothing had happened. I went to the spare bedroom and stayed there. I lay awake the entire night hearing her words over and over, blending with my parents' voices from years ago. Their cruel jokes, their reminders that I was unwanted, all coming back with her voice layered on top. I thought about the rage I carried as a teenager, how I used to wish my mother would die painfully. I thought those feelings were buried deep, but last night she dug them up and threw them right back at me. I cannot move past it. This morning she was cheerful, as if none of it had happened. I could barely look at her. All I could think was that something inside me had broken. I do not know if it can ever be repaired. Now I am sitting here thinking about divorce, or at least separation. I do not even know how to start. I do not know what lawyer to call. I do not know how to explain to the kids why their parents are breaking apart. Part of me wonders if I am overreacting, if this is just a fight gone too far. But I know myself. I know I am not overreacting, because I cannot imagine ever forgetting what she said. Usually I move on from almost anything. I swallow pain, bury it, keep going. But this is not something I can just swallow. This is different. She went to the deepest wound I have and drove the knife in. I need to say this clearly. I need validation. I need someone to tell me I am not crazy for feeling this broken. I need condolences, because I feel like I am spiraling, replaying her words in my head. I thought my past was behind me. I thought I had buried it and moved on. Last night showed me I was wrong. It is not buried. It is alive, and it can be used against me by the very person I trusted most. And I do not know how I could ever forgive that. Comments. Commenter 1. You shouldn't divorce her. Words matter, it's over. Reply. IG so, thinking of starting with separation so that the children adjust a few weeks, then OFC, I am asking some people for advice regarding lawyers. Commenter 2. OP. For the love of God, please file for divorce. What she said is unforgivable. It's evil. No one with a soul or conscience would say something like that. The fact that it was cool and deliberate, and not in the heat of the moment, makes it worse. Commenter 3. You are not overreacting. She also knows what she's done. She didn't apologize. She didn't come and find out why you were in the spare bedroom. She knows. She's beyond all words, and she doesn't love you anymore. She said it because she doesn't want your relationship anymore. She wants you to look like the bad guy and be the bad guy. Don't let that happen. First thing you should do is get a therapist. Somebody to talk to. Talking things out will keep you sane and reinforce the knowledge that you are doing the right thing when she's spinning things and you feel crazy. Secondly, you want a divorce lawyer. They will point you to who deals with child custody if they can't. Thirdly, I would start looking for a place to live. You don't need to move into it right away, but it can be a place you can go when things are getting too much, and it gives you time to make it a home and a safe place. This way, when you leave, she can't beg you to stay because you actually have somewhere to go. It will give you the strength to walk out. You are going to be okay. What has been forced upon you is not okay, but you still have a future. Make it how you want it. Update. Wife used my past and secrets against me. I waited until Tuesday. She went through the weekend and Monday like nothing had happened, a little colder than usual, quick with her answers, acting irritated like I was the one who had caused all of this. No apology, not even a hint. It felt like I was carrying something heavy while she just moved around it. By Tuesday afternoon, I couldn't hold it anymore. I asked her to sit down with me. The house was quiet. I told her I needed to talk about what she said during the fight, because this wasn't something we could just shrug off. I reminded her that the fight had started because I refused to hit our son while teaching. I told her I don't believe in beating kids to make them learn, and that she had pushed for it. That's where the argument began, and somehow it slid into something so much uglier. I asked her why she used what I told her in confidence against me. I reminded her that she had asked me to open up years ago and promised she would keep it safe. I asked her why she hugged me back, then if this was where it would end up. At first, she was stiff. She said she didn't know what else she was supposed to do at the time. She told me she just tried to act normal, to be supportive, because she didn't know how to handle what I told her. She said she hadn't realized how heavy it all was until later. Her voice was even, like she was just explaining facts. I told her the promise mattered. I said it wasn't about a slip in anger. It was that she reached for the exact things I handed her in trust and turned them against me. I asked her again why. That's when she admitted it. She told me she lost some respect for me after I opened up. I asked what that meant. She said it wasn't one detail, it was the whole picture. She said she had always seen me as solid, someone who could carry weight without bending, the person she leaned on. But after I shared everything, she couldn't stop seeing the breaks under the surface. She said parts of my story made me look fragile to her. Some of the darker pieces, the way those years sat inside me, gave her an uneasy feeling she couldn't shake. Seeing me tear up and feel so nervous and like a wreck made her look very differently at me. She actually used the word ick. She said sometimes when she remembered those things, it got in the way of how she looked at me. I asked if that meant she thought less of me for surviving. She said it wasn't about surviving. It was about how it changed what she expected from me. She admitted she had built an image of me that didn't include those kinds of wounds, and once she knew, she couldn't put that image back. I asked her why she hugged me then, why she told me she wanted to know me fully. She said she didn't know what else to do in the moment. She didn't want to punish me for telling the truth. She said holding me and saying it was okay felt like the only decent response at the time, even though, inside, she had already started to see me differently. I let that sit, then asked the harder thing. She said she couldn't control herself in that moment, and she reached for what she knew would hurt me most. She said she regretted it and that it would never happen again. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it, piece by piece, only when she pressed me. If she wanted to know something, I answered. I didn't overshare, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, she probably only ever heard a fraction of what I actually live with. What makes this worse is that I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I wasn't unloading on her because I couldn't carry it myself. The only reason she even heard those parts of me was because she demanded it. She insisted I open up, insisted she wanted the whole picture. She told me she wanted to know me fully, and I believed her. I trusted her enough to hand over things I never planned on saying out loud. That's why this betrayal feels so much heavier. It wasn't me blurting out things I couldn't control, it was me handing her pieces of myself because she begged for them, swore she'd hold them safe. And then she took those same pieces and cut me with them. It feels like giving someone your heartbeat because they said they wanted to hold it close, and then watching them drive a knife straight through it. After she said all of that, I just sat there for a while. It was like I'd finally gotten the truth behind everything, but it didn't settle in cleanly. I wasn't shocked anymore, more resigned. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it bit by bit, only in response to her questions. If she wanted to know something, I told her. I didn't add anything extra, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, she probably only heard a quarter of what I actually carry. Why was she so intent on me being open and emotionally vulnerable then? I told her I didn't think I could just go back to how things were. I said I felt like the foundation was cracked in a way I couldn't ignore. I told her maybe the only way forward was to separate amicably, quietly, before things got any worse. I said I didn't think I could keep looking at her the same way, not after knowing she could turn something so personal into a weapon. That's when her whole tone shifted. The firmness she had when she explained herself dropped, and she sounded almost panicked. She asked me not to say that, said she didn't want a divorce. She told me she still loved me, that whatever she had done in anger wasn't bigger than the life we had built. She couldn't imagine splitting the kids between us, couldn't imagine them growing up in two houses. She told me leaving would scar them more than anything we had been through. I told her love isn't supposed to look like tearing each other apart with the sharpest words we can find. She said she knew that, and promised again that it wouldn't happen anymore. She said she had already admitted it was wrong, and she meant it when she said she'd never go there again. She kept circling back to the same point, that we had kids, that they needed us together, that whatever issues we had to fix them without breaking the family apart. She didn't cry, but there was a kind of desperation in her voice, almost like she was afraid I was already out the door and she was trying to pull me back any way she could. She didn't apologize again for what she'd said, not directly, but she kept stressing that it would never happen again, that I shouldn't throw everything away over one mistake. Right now, I haven't made a final decision. I keep going back and forth in my head. Part of me feels like the damage is too deep, and I'd be lying to myself if I pretended I could ever really see her the same way again. But another part of me hesitates, because walking away isn't simple when there are kids and years of life tied together. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't leaning more in one direction the end than the other, but I'm not there yet. I feel heavy most days, caught between wanting to protect myself and not wanting to tear my family in half. Some moments I think I know what I have to do, then I second guess it. It's draining, but at least writing this down and hearing different perspectives has made me feel less alone in it. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to read, comment, or even send me a message directly. It means more than I can put into words. I couldn't respond to every single individual, but I have gone through all of the comments, maybe even twice. Thank you, strangers. Comments. Commenter 1. She wants you to focus on her and the kids more than yourself and the hurt that she caused you. This should tell you more than anything else. What she did was essentially respond with emotional blackmail and make you think that your actions are the reason the kids are going to be hurt and that the relationship is potentially falling apart. Literally a narcissistic response. Commenter 2. OP. She's trying to manipulate you. Her apology was a lie. She's not sorry. Her promise was a lie, so you can't trust her ever again. Go through with the divorce, but do not make it amicable or as friends. You didn't just drift apart mutually, she abused you. Commenter 3. Her not apologizing is what tears it for me. It signals that she still feels what she feels about you as she had described in her explanation. And frankly, that's what makes staying difficult, if not impossible. She can promise not to do it again, but if lack of control is the reason behind launching a devastating surgical attack with emotional abuse as her primary weapon of choice, then I'm afraid her promise might ring hollow. Lack of control is what a person with abusive tendencies say to excuse their behavior. If you still have access to a therapist, I'd strongly encourage you to seek out their counsel to work through your feelings and help gain clarity in deciding what to do moving forward. I wish you good luck and light with whatever you decide to do. Commenter 4. EW, she wanted you to hit the kids over homework? As someone raised hit over homework, that is abuse. This is further reinforced by the fact that she was disgusted by the fact that you're not abusive and have been abused and then abused you. She is abusive. Not only do you need to get out of there, but I would suggest evaluating whether your kids are safe with her. Protect yourself and your kids. Stories number 10. My 38F husband 44M left to take care of his sick ex-wife 43F. Do I ask for divorce? My 38F husband 44M and I have been married for just over 2 years. Before our relationship, he was married to a woman named Lexi 43F. They met in their 20s and were together for nearly a decade, including 7 years of marriage. During their time together, Lexi was diagnosed with cancer. He supported her throughout the entire journey until she eventually recovered. Not long after her recovery, she expressed a desire to explore life independently, which ultimately led to their divorce. Several months ago, Lexi reached out to him. The three of us had dinner together, and I found her to be warm, kind, and easy to talk to. Shortly after that evening, she asked to speak with him privately. During that conversation, she revealed that her cancer had returned. This time, the outlook was more serious, and she confided that she did not think she could go through treatment again on her own. My husband told me everything, and I supported his decision to be there for her. I even offered to help, but Lexi gently declined, saying she did not feel comfortable being that vulnerable around someone she did not know well. I respected her honesty and stepped back. As time went on, my husband became increasingly involved in her care and emotional well-being. At first, I tried not to question it. I understood how much she was going through and how much their shared history meant. However, as the weeks passed, it became clear that something had shifted. His presence in our shared life began to fade, and I could feel the distance growing. 2 weeks ago, he sat down with me to have an open conversation. He assured me that nothing romantic or inappropriate had happened between them, but he also admitted that the level of support Lexi needed was not something he could provide while also being a husband to someone else. He said he believed we should separate, at least for now, and that he would understand if I chose to move forward with a divorce. He left our home shortly afterward, and we've had very limited contact since. I'm torn about what to do next. Part of me feels like I should ask for a divorce and start moving on, but another part wonders if I should wait and see how things develop. Comments. Commenter 1. He chose her. Don't be someone's runner-up. Commenter 2. It seems to me that he didn't want the divorce and is stepping back in as a partner to her. It's one thing to help care for an ex. My husband's ex-wife came to live with us and their kids when she was being treated for cancer. I was the one taking care of her primarily. It felt like the right thing to do. But if my husband had come to me like yours has, I'd be done. Commenter 3. There are two stark differences here that made your situation the right thing to do. You had shared children in the dynamic, so caring for their mother was ultimately a caring move towards them. You and hubby took this on together in agreement with equal or more on-tour-end involvement. Commenter 4. But another part of me wonders if I should wait and see how things develop. Why would you do that to yourself? Your husband chose. He didn't choose you. He left you to be with another woman. He told you he didn't care if you divorced him. Have some respect for yourself. Commenter 5. I don't know why you have any questions here. He left you to go and support his ex-wife. Not just conceptually, but literally, he took a break from your marriage. He also understands that this could lead to divorce and believes that caring for his ex-wife is worth taking that risk. Divorce him. Either she has literally nobody else in her life who could support her in this. Thus your ex-husband will continue to be involved in her affairs after she dies as her sole relationship on this earth, even if you did stay with him. Or she has other people in her life, and she has, for whatever reason, chosen your husband specifically to be her full-time support, and he has, for whatever reason, agreed to that, which means he cares more about her than about you. I'd guess it's probably the latter. Commenter 6. Wow. So his ex, while I'm sympathetic that she's sick, has effectively ended not one, but two of his marriages. Personally, I think she's incredibly selfish in this situation. I think your husband is making a mistake. I feel bad for him in a sense, but I wouldn't stick around after he's told you you're not his number one priority. Stories number 11. Aita for not starting any traditions with my step and half-siblings like my mom wants me to. My parents divorced when I 16 was 2. I spend the same time at both houses, 7 days and 7 days. At Dad's house it's us, and my paternal grandparents. At Mom's house now it's Mom, her husband since I was 7, stepbrother who's 6 years younger than me, and 2 half-siblings who are 9 and 11 years younger than me. I don't like my mom's husband, which is why I call him that instead of my stepdad. There's drama there, but I need to explain that background first. So my dad got my mom's husband fired years ago. Like so many years ago that it was before my mom met her husband. They were work rivals, and Mom's husband sabotaged a project Dad was working on, and Dad reported it, and other stuff he knew about Mom's husband, which led to him losing his job. I DK what the other stuff was. But my mom's husband hated that from that point, and when Mom started dating him, and he found out Dad was my dad, he was extra petty about it. He used to ask me if I realized my dad was a snake, and what it was like having a snitch for a dad. He told me he'd teach me the ways of the world better than Dad could. And he'd try to make me go to him over Dad in public settings. Like if they were all there for one of my school plays or something. I never went to Mom's husband before my dad, and it really annoyed him, so he said more shit about my dad. I never liked having her husband around, and even though my mom sees his son as her son now, because she raised him and is the only mom he knows, I never saw him as my brother. And when they had my half-siblings, I never felt super attached or close to them. I don't hate any of them, but I don't care that we're not super close either. My mom tried to make it happen by taking us to do fun stuff together, and she set up little traditions for us as siblings, but I just went along with it because it was never like important to me. Dad's house was different because I loved our little family. Living with him and my grandparents is the best. They all made it a priority to teach me stuff like how to cook, bake, sew, do DIY stuff, and all kinds of things. We have our own little traditions too. For our birthdays, the other 3 bake loads of treats and cook their favorite 3 meals that day. We have a cartoon movie night every Friday. I'm there. I help Grandma meal prep Sundays, and it's very much an us thing and a tradition at this point. We use her label maker, and we cook and bake for a few hours. Me and Grandpa have been fixing up the old shed at the back of our house for a few months now, and we do stuff like that, take on projects together. There's other things too. I never talk about that stuff at Mom's house because I know her husband will have something to say about it, and I was worried Mom would try to copy that for me and my step-and-half siblings. My dad and I won a local cooking contest a couple of months ago. Mom saw it on social media, and she started asking me when I learned to cook like that and why Dad and I would enter something like that together. I told her we just did. She looked at the mini interview video, and she asked why I never brought that stuff over to her house. Why I had traditions I enjoyed but didn't share them with my step-and-half siblings. Then she asked me to start up some with them because she knew I wasn't into anything she tried to start between us. And I didn't. She waited a month before bringing it up, and I told her I didn't want to start any with them. She asked me why, and she said it can be just me and them. It doesn't need to involve her husband if he's the reason I won't. But she said she hates feeling like there's no relationship between me and them, and she thinks starting something like this would be a good bonding experience. She said it could be as simple as me teaching them how to bake. I still didn't, and before I left Mom's house last week, she told me she didn't know what to do about me anymore because I wasn't making any effort, and all it would take is something small and a few hours a month. She told me starting traditions in families is important, and I never treat my step-and-half siblings like we're a family. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. It's not your job to build her family. If there are no traditions, she could start them. More than anything, she could have protected you from her husband's pettiness. Reply. She has tried, but she knows I was never into them. So she was hoping I'd start stuff I'd invest into. But I don't want stuff with them. I don't feel that bond or even care about bonding with them. Reply. Commenter 1. And that's your right. As long as you're not being terrible to them, you're fine. Reply. I'm pretty neutral to them. Like I'll say hi and stuff, and I won't act like they're not there. I just don't try to get closer to them. Commenter 2. OP is 16, spends half his time at his mom's, and she has no idea he can cook? Stellar parenting there. I also don't like that she's not protecting her son from her husband. He hates OP's dad and is projecting that hate onto OP. Reply. She knew I could do very basic stuff, but nothing like what I can actually do. I didn't want her to know because I didn't want it to become a thing I could do for them. A part of me knew Mom would do this, and it turns out I was right. She hasn't liked Dad since the divorce, so she doesn't think it's a big deal for me to be around her husband's hate for him and the attempts to turn me against Dad. Commenter 3. NTA. Did your mother ever notice and especially care about the fact that her husband is taking out his hate of your father on you? Did she ever try to rein him in, or was getting married to a gigantic more important to her? Reply. She knew, but she hasn't liked Dad since the divorce, so she didn't care. I think she probably hoped he would alienate me from Dad, and I'd want to live with them, and she wouldn't have to communicate with Dad ever again. Commenter 4. NTA. Tell her these are things you enjoy with your family. You don't want to bond with them. She can love them, but you are indifferent, and forcing it won't work. Reply. Telling her that won't make a difference. It will only make her push harder for me to do them with everyone. She doesn't want to understand that stuff. She only wants me to bond and do what she wants. Reply. Commenter 4. Then tell her if she continues this, you will go no contact the second you turn adult? Or can't you talk to Judge about the arrangements? Commenter 5. NTA. It might be time to ask Dad to go back to court and get full custody, or at the very least for you to spend more time at your dad's. Your mom was fine with her husband trying to alienate you from your dad for the last 9 years. Call me suspicious, but this start a new tradition with your step-and-half siblings could well be an excuse to get you to meal prep and cook for the entire family. Reply. It's not that, although I know it would be a benefit in her eyes. Mom has been trying to find stuff for us, but I was never into it, and she was trying to make me pick up something that she knows I like. But I just don't care about having traditions or bonding with them like she wants me to care. Stories number 12. My husband hasn't realized just how much life changes when kids come into the picture. It's becoming clear that, at least, any ideas of life changing with children is a very abstract concept to him. Which is wild because it's something that has been drilled into me my whole life. I'm stressed because he's not seeing that a hobby that takes you away for a weekend every month/month and a half isn't realistic with small children, at some point multiple, and no local support system. To the women here who have had kids, are there any books you could recommend for him? Anything that can help him realistically realize what changes will happen? ETA. I'm sorry, I forgot to clarify. We did talk, and I told him I would not be fine with him leaving that often until our youngest child is old enough for it to not be a massive load, so about 10 years from first kid. He was upset, said he wasn't happy about not being able to do his hobby, but would do it for us. What's getting me is what he may or may not be expecting. You know how you don't realize just how everyone is raised differently until you live with someone who grew up in a different household? Like that, but with kid expectations. Comments. Commenter 1. Forget books unless he's a natural reader. Find responsible dads he can talk to. There might be new dad podcasts. Are you expecting or just talking about possibilities? Find a family with a young baby he can work up to solo babysitting for, so he'll know what he's doing in advance. Reply. We were planning on trying for kids soon, but I put that on hold. He wasn't happy, but I was honest and told him that I don't think he's ready for the changes that come with a baby. He took it as me saying I no longer think he'd be a good father, which isn't the case. It's just the preparedness for the life changes I'm worried about. I'll try suggesting he talk to his brother. Maybe that will help him prepare and realize that the only change isn't just an extra person in the family. Commenter 2. Typically, if men aren't worried about how kids will impact their lives, it's because they're not expecting it to. Whether consciously or unconsciously, deep down he expects his life to remain pretty much the same. Make no mistake, that happens at the mom's expense. Commenter 3. One of the best quotes I've read on Reddit is, "Men want kids like kids want a puppy." I hate how relevant it is to so many of us. Commenter 4. My ex asked for a divorce, and when I questioned why, his response was that being a husband and father wasn't what he thought it was, and it took too much time away from his hobbies. Divorce granted, dude. Stories number 13. Aita for telling a coworker to read the room when he pointed out the free pizza while I was eating my own packed lunch. Yesterday, at my workplace, there was a group meeting set during the noon. As the meeting was long, my workplace decided to host a free lunch period, basically pizza and other food. This was mentioned beforehand in an email sent to everyone. Due to various personal and family-related reasons, I take my own packed lunch to work. I can't see myself eating both my lunch and the free food provided, as that would be impossible. Plus, I don't want to waste my own lunch. After the first half of the meeting, we had lunch in the room itself. I opened up my own bag while a lot of other people went to get the pizza. After like a few minutes, one coworker whom I've never spoken to before, as I've only started 3 weeks ago, came up to me and said something like, "Hey, there's free pizza if you want it." This is where I got a little annoyed, because 1, the pizza boxes were literally across the room. Obviously they were there. And 2, I was very clearly eating my own lunch, which I thought made it clear that I decided to forego the free work-provided lunch. So I told him something along the lines, "No thanks. I have my own lunch, as you can see. That means I'm not going for the free pizza." He said okay, and then left. Later after work, I told my parents about this when they asked me about what we did at work, and they said I was being rude by saying that, saying I could have left it at "no thanks." Granted, I was a bit annoyed, but I thought my simple explanation to my coworker was diplomatic and further clarified what was going on. Was the idea here? Edit. Hey there, thanks to everyone for giving their insight and pointing out what I did was wrong. I've learned my lesson well. I was very much the asshole in this scenario. I failed to understand at the moment why saying something like "I have my own lunch," as you can see, is inherently rude, and now I know that was not acceptable at all. Though I didn't understand the social nuance of this interaction at first due to my Asperger's, that is by no means any excuse for my actions, and I am still responsible for what I say. Next week, I plan on speaking to the coworker the next chance I get and apologizing to him for my actions and words. He definitely did not deserve to be treated that way by me. Thanks again to everyone for their input. I really do appreciate it. I may update on what happens and tie everything up on a good note at work. Comments. Commenter 1. Our coworker did read the room. He just didn't read your mind, and you got upset about it. Commenter 2. YDA. Yeah, you came in hot and annoyed for no reason. Just say, "I know, I'm good though," next time. He probably didn't want you to feel excluded. Maybe he just didn't think you knew you could have some because you're new. There's always awkwardness when it comes to free food given out, and you're the newbie. I don't know if this is like your first adult job or something. Try and get along with your coworkers before you snap at them, especially for no reason. Your work life will be a lot better if you're kind. Are you perhaps neurospicy? It's not a bad thing, of course, but may provide some context about this. This situation was pretty innocuous, but it feels blown out of proportion. Very blunt response with no real reason to be annoyed or upset. It wasn't malicious sounding, so try not to assume otherwise. Reply. Yeah, that was what I realized too. I'll stick with just "I know, I'm good from now on. Thanks. And yeah, this is actually my first job ever, and I have Asperger's." Not saying those are excuses, but they are probably part of the reason why. Commenter 3. Definitely makes sense. Life is hard, and you're learning. We all have times where social cues are hard. Never mind the fact that you're new, in a new environment, with new people. It's a lot and overwhelming. At least it was just over pizza this time. If you want, you could apologize to the coworker and just be like, hey, I'm sorry that I was short with you in my response. I appreciate you looking out for me. I'm new to this, so I need to work on my tone. I'm OP, by the way. You don't need to mention your Asperger's at all. Also could potentially restart a potential work friendship. An apology and accountability is super important. Also, just try and laugh this off. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. Just try not to make it a reoccurring thing. Reply, thanks for your kind words. And yeah, I am definitely going to apologize to him the next time we meet. Your template apology, of course, swapping out OP for my name LOL, is honestly perfect. I will certainly follow it. Also, thanks for your input on me not needing to mention my Asperger's to anyone except HR, who already knows and has formal documentation since I got hired. I was debating this, especially considering that my Asperger's should never be used as an excuse. Even so, I'm worried that I might come off as using it as an excuse when I'm not. Reply commenter 3. Of course, I think it's always good to have these stock scripts to keep in your back pocket. Just remember to say thanks and stuff like that. Manners are cool. I think if you did want to mention it, during the apology could be fine. Just be like, I am neurodivergent, so sometimes I don't understand the social normalcies that come easier to others. I don't think you would be excusing it at all, just giving a reason. The fact that you understand that it shouldn't be used as an excuse is genuinely really awesome. But honestly, it's no one's business. It's your health to keep and disclose as you see fit. I probably wouldn't disclose anything 3 weeks in any ways. I hope you flourish at your job. Update. Aita for telling a coworker to read the room when he pointed out the free pizza while I was eating my own packed lunch. After thinking about my behavior towards my coworker and getting feedback from the comments, I realized that I indeed was very much being an ass to my coworker. At the time, I felt he was belittling me, but I realized this is not the case upon retrospect. My response to him was not at all diplomatic. In particular, I should not have said something like, no thanks, I already have lunch, as you can see, but just saying no thanks, I already have lunch was good enough in the polite version. So because of this, I made up my mind to apologize to him the next time I found him. Luckily today, I found him randomly in the hallway. I went up to him and said I was sorry for being inadvertently rude to him and that I took full accountability for it. That I was aware that he was making sure I, a new employee, was feeling welcome, and I didn't initially realize that I came off as incredibly rude. He took it very well and told me, don't apologize for it, and that he understood. Although there was a little hitch where he was a bit surprised when I told him I was a new employee at the time of the first post. I was only 3 weeks in. So yes, I was a new employee. He said something along the lines of, didn't you join in June as the adjunct? I remember that, to which I said no. I started here 3 weeks ago, and I work in an entirely different position. We eventually figured out it was just a minor mix-up, and we both laughed it off. In retrospect, I realize it's possible maybe I wasn't too specific enough about the lunchtime incident, and he may have been still thinking about a different event, but I was a bit nervous at the time and didn't think that. In any case, I'm glad I was able to end things on a good note and learning a bit more about what real diplomatic workplace relations look like. Comments. Commenter 1. This is great. If you haven't heard it, Breen Brown had a great podcast episode about giving apologies. She said one of the worst things you can do when apologizing is to say something along the lines of, I'm sorry for the thing I did. When we hear that second sentence, we basically process the apology as, I'm saying I'm sorry, but I'm really going to blame it on something else. You did perfect. You took ownership instead. Commenter 2. We love seeing accountability and growth. Keep it up. Commenter 3. Huzzah for adult communication. It's refreshing to see mature adults talking things out for a change. The internet makes it seem like everyone has completely lost their collective minds. Reply. Yeah, that seems to be a recurring thing that happens on the internet. But luckily there are some good interactions in the world, and hopefully more to come. Commenter 4. A lot of people will use a sideways, hey there's X, as a way of making sure you know you're allowed to have some in that particular social situation. It's also not uncommon at professional events for food to be reserved for higher-ups, and the new guys/lower-level workers have to fend for themselves. Reply. I did not know about that part where food is reserved for higher-ups. I learned something today. Luckily, our company isn't like that, and everyone is welcome. Also, Interesting thing is that the position/other employee that my coworker thought I was would have been a core employee. Not really a higher up per se, but still a key part of the team. But yeah, again, our company doesn't gatekeep food like that anyway. Stories number 14. Aita for threatening to cut my parents off financially to stop my brother from proposing at my wedding. I 27M LL start this off by saying my wedding is scheduled for April because my fiancé, 25F, has always dreamed of a spring wedding. And I really like the idea too. I have an older brother though, 30M. And last Saturday, I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something. But they refused to tell me what until I got there. They then sat me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not. But they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job and have been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either. It was entirely goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking anything more to them. But my brother came to my home the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents, and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him. And if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite. And I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal followed up with being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few choice words at me, then went crying to our only surviving grandparent, our maternal grandmother, and she called to try and ream me over the phone. No surprise my brother heavily embellished the version of the story he told her, but she still sided with him after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who are now pissed at me for taking things this far. But I told them I only went that far because I had to when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as his springboard for a proposal. They ended up agreeing with me, but still stated they feel like I'm crass. And my brother showed up at my home again to scream at me that I'm an asshole, and I hope I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. I thought I was entirely in the right at first, but maybe I really did take it too far with my brother. So I thought I'd come here to ask for an impartial ruling. Aita for everything I did and said to my brother and everyone else. Edit, my fiancée knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Also, I won't justify making my grandmother cry. Normally, I have a very mild temper. But when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. And for those wondering why I've been sending my parents money, well, about a year ago they were on the verge of losing their house because of extra debt they took on paying for my brother's college 10 years ago. They were too prideful to ask me for help, but I didn't want them to end up losing their home. I personally don't want the house in the future, but I want my parents to be able to keep their home. We have a plan for me to continue payments till I'm 30, and I have sent them to a financial advisor to help them get things settled. But my lazy brother isn't helping. He only pays $300 a month for rent and doesn't contribute to utilities. Years ago, he also dropped out of the college my parents paid for, and they couldn't get the lost tuition money back. So they are finally starting to get angry with him themselves. Edit 2. Yes, my brother dropped out of college. But a few years later, he got an online college degree and barely passed to get it. I have no issue with online college. However, after what my parents spent on him, it feels like a stick to the eye that he did that. But the online college degree got him a better job. He's never really changed though. As soon as he got that degree, he wanted nothing but praise for months. My brother has no bad habits like gambling, high spending, or drug addiction. He's just a jerk and always has been. Added info. My fiancée knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Normally, I have a very mild temper. But when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. I ended up speaking with my brother again and threatened to tell his girlfriend if he was still intending to propose at my wedding without permission. He took it poorly and called me an awful person. So I pointed out that my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there for this, and they backed me up. I think my brother did a double take when they did that. My dad pointed out that he'd raised my brother wrong, and that was on him. So from now on my brother was to show them real respect. And they wanted to get an official lease drawn up for him to pay proper rent and utilities. He was only paying them $300 a month without contributing to any utilities or food. And if he doesn't want to pay, he can move out, and they'll rent his room to someone else. My brother turned to our mom for help, but she just agreed with Dad. He looked like he was having a conniption and then left the house. He came back a couple hours later, but spoke to no one and locked himself in his room. 2 days later, my brother announced he was moving in with Grandma because she invited him, and our parents basically told him that if he wants to live with her, then to go ahead. My brother responded to this by saying we all hate him for just wanting to propose to his girlfriend. My parents pointed out that it's not that he wanted to propose, but where he wanted to do it, and he'd get no support for it. He's refusing to talk to our parents now. My grandmother did try to call me again, but it ended up with me telling her that my brother will not be allowed to propose at my wedding, plain and simple. So he can get over it, or not come. And the same goes for her. I ended up calling her out on her favoritism towards my brother since we were kids, which she tried to deny at first, but couldn't keep doing so because of how much I'd pointed out. She ended up crying again while I told her that if she keeps trying to insist on this, then she won't be coming to my wedding. She begged me not to rescind her invite, but still said she doesn't understand why I couldn't let my brother have his way before ending the call. My fiancé is 100% on my side and is fully ready to remove my brother and grandmother from the wedding. My grandmother hasn't called again, and she's not talking to my parents either. My guess is my brother went crying to her again to tell her mommy and daddy weren't enabling him anymore. So she offered for him to move in with her. But there's literally nothing she can do to sway me. And I think my last conversation with her made her realize that. I didn't wish to tell my brother's GF, but she called me up on a Saturday about my Reddit post. She saw it read in an online video, and then realized it might be me with the way I described my brother and grandmother. So yeah, now she knows. She ended up tearing my brother a new $dollar hole, and he still tried to justify himself to her. That's when she told him they were through and cut all contact with him. My brother, of course, blamed me, even though his girlfriend said that she's been ready to leave him for a while now, and if he'd tried to propose, no matter where, she'd have told him no. So that's it. My brother showed up at my place one more time to have a fit, and said he is boycotting my wedding. He actually thought he had leverage that he and Grandma won't go. I said I wouldn't miss him, and that he's in his 30s now and needs to grow up. Our parents have cut the umbilical and are no longer supporting him. And they're already repainting his room to rent it to someone else. And they plan on renting out my old bedroom as well, because they need the money after the financial hole he left them in after dropping out of college, just to do mooch off them for a while, and then get a degree with online college later, and then barely paying any rent, while also making them pay for his food and utilities despite having a good-paying job. They spent the world on him, and he wasn't the least bit grateful. That made my brother just shut down and leave. And since then we've not heard a peep out of him. That's everything that's happened from my original post up till now. Edit. Yes, I have very good security hired for the wedding. And they'll toss my brother out like bouncers in a heartbeat. Update 1. While my brother and grandma are officially uninvited from my upcoming wedding, my grandma called me again to berate me even more for refusing to let my brother propose. Apparently, he's beside himself with grief over his ex. Yeah. So beside himself with grief that he's already on Tinder looking for a date. Or so his social media says. Which I pointed out to Grandma. She claimed that was just his way of coping. I said I didn't care. He's no longer invited to my wedding because I can't trust that he won't do something crazy if he's there. Then she gave me her classic line of I don't understand why. That's what she always says when I won't do something for my brother after he'd screwed me over. For example, I once gave my brother a loan back when he was still doing online college. He didn't want to repay it despite promising he would. Even after getting a good job, he hemmed and hawed about it when I wanted him to pay me back. He had the money, he just didn't want to give it up. So I said I was never going to loan him money again. And Grandma gave her line of not understanding why. Even when I told her it was because I knew my brother would never want to repay me, so he's not going to get another penny. Her response was to say she still doesn't understand. So just hearing her say that about the issue of my brother being banned from my wedding made me lose it. I yelled at her that she does understand. She just acts like she doesn't because she doesn't want to. She's always been on my brother's side no matter what he did. And because of that, she's no longer invited to my wedding either. And I don't care if she cries, because I'm just plain done with her. She made her bed with the side she chose. Now she can live with it. Of course, she exploded in tears, crying like a sad whale, and called me a bad grandson. I said she was a bad grandma for thinking I'm the bad grandson when she always believed my brother's lies and played favorite. Everyone else knew it too. And I'm sick of her pretending everything was rosy when she used to beat my ass, and then tell me I'd be a bad boy if I told my parents she'd spanked me. I then told her not to call me again unless it was to admit the truth and give me a genuine apology. And then I ended the call. It went right back to radio silent from her. I also preemptively told my parents about what happened. And their response was that they don't care I yelled at her anymore, because she's never going to stop siding with my brother no matter what. My parents are actually doing so much better since my brother moved out. They've got 2 rooms ready to rent out, and on the market waiting for a tenant. My dad is also working on clearing out the attic to make another room up there for someone to rent. They're basically turning as many rooms in their house as they can into livable space. They're going to need that rent money to help pay off their debts. And they're still thanking me a lot for helping them with the money I've been sending monthly. My parents sat me down a while ago and apologized heavily for everything that went on from my childhood till now. They said they can offer no good excuse as to why my brother was the favorite when they shouldn't have been playing favorites at all. And that what they did was completely unacceptable. And the fact that I was still willing to help them out, even after everything they'd done, made them realize how horrible they were as parents. And from now on, they'll do their best to be better people. They've basically stopped caring about what my brother and grandma think too. They haven't been talking to them either. I've heard nothing from my brother's ex. She wants nothing more to do with my family. And I don't blame her. My fiancée is super happy about me standing my ground because she wanted my brother and grandmother out much sooner. Then she admitted something to me I never knew. Apparently, the few times she was alone with my grandma, she was told all sorts of lies about me that my fiancé never once believed. She couldn't recall much. But basically, Grandma said a number of things that I remember my brother did that were pinned on me. But the gist of it is that my grandma was trying to tell my fiancé that I was a bad egg as a child, and that she better watch me closely in case she decided not to marry me. So yeah, Grandma was trying to poison the well with more lies. One story my fiancé remembered my grandma talking about was one I knew right away. It was the story about the broken lamp. My grandma used to have a beautiful handcrafted stained glass lamp. My brother threw a football in the house straight at it, and the lamp fell and broke. It was old and frail, so it basically shattered. My brother said that I was throwing a football in the house, and that he tried to stop me, but it was actually the other way around. Grandma refused to believe me and spanked me bare-bottomed with a wooden spoon. My grandpa knew my brother was lying, and even told my parents so. My brother was grounded, and I was told I didn't have to visit Grandma anymore if I didn't want to. And after my grandpa passed away, I stopped going. The fact that old hag was still talking about that stuff to people like my fiancé when I'm not around infuriates me. So I'm beyond glad that I've cut the tumors that are my brother and grandmother out of my life. I don't need them anymore. Update 2. Well, my brother came pounding on my front door again a few days ago, and this time he was drunk. He drunkenly told me he found out about my Reddit posts because he tried to get back together with his ex, and she told him how she found out what he was planning. So his dumb at $dollar thought it'd be a good idea to get wasted and then confront me. He even vomited on my porch step, and then did something I didn't see coming. He curled up on the ground crying. I figured he was going to attack me or something because he was acting so deranged. But instead, he just got in a sort of fetal position and cried in the grass while blaming me for his problems in between swigs from the bottle he was carrying. From what I could get out of him, he recently went to see his ex and begged her to take him back. But she told him he was a man-child and she'd never want to marry him, and then explained how she knew he was planning on proposing. He went home and searched online till he found my Reddit posts and read them. He went through a lot of the comments on my prior posts, and when he realized next to nobody saw things from his point of view, He broke his computer monitor and started pounding a bottle of vodka while walking over to my home since I only live a couple miles from my grandma's house. While he was sitting on the ground, he was drunkenly cussing at me and saying it's my fault that everyone but grandma hates him now. I had no sympathy and told him he did all that himself. Sure, I aired our dirty laundry online by telling everyone, but he was still the entitled jerk who never really grew up and goes crying to granny like a spoiled brat when he doesn't get his way. Time to grow up and man up. He called me a few more things that I could barely understand, and then pretty much stopped talking to just sit there and keep drinking and crying. I ended up taking away what was left of his bottle of vodka, and said that maybe when he's sober he can see some common sense. Then I called for a taxi to take him home. I wasn't about to drive to grandma's house because I don't want to see or be anywhere near her. My brother didn't even thank me for calling and paying for the taxi, just flopped himself into the back seat and told the driver to get going. I got a call the next day from the taxi service stating my brother had vomited multiple times all over the back seat in the short time he was in the cab, and it took $200 to thoroughly clean it because it was everywhere. I apologized and mailed them a check for their trouble. It's been a few days since that happened, but the crap didn't end there. So I'll be making another post very soon. Update 3. I knew it. I just knew it. And some of you called it. My grandma couldn't leave well enough alone. She and my brother were already both uninvited from my upcoming wedding and borderline ghosted. But now she's gone and made a huge scene about it. She took my brother over to my parents' house to show them my Reddit posts. Thing is, my parents already know about and have read them because I admitted it to them after my brother drunkenly came to my home to yell at me. And my parents no longer care because the situation opened their eyes some time ago. I wasn't there to see it. But my grandma laid it on thick to my parents about how she has been thoroughly humiliated by me, and that she didn't understand why I do this over something so trivial as my brother proposing at my upcoming wedding. Well, this next part one never expected. My mom, ever the passive doormat to her mother for as long as I can remember, finally lost it on grandma about how she's a narcissist, and how her influence made her and my dad seem like ones too. And they were idiots to let that happen. Then they told grandma and my brother that the whole wanting to propose at my wedding thing was a completely stupid and selfish idea, and then reiterated reasons I've stated as to why, with it likely being my brother wanting to put his ex on the spot in front of the whole family. Then my parents told them both to get out. My brother especially they admonished because he'd used them as a veritable ATM for years and barely contributed financially after landing a good job. And then me, the son they'd regretfully ignored, was someone they were far more proud of because I helped them start to undo the damage they'd done to themselves. And thus far I've asked for nothing in return. Grandma, I'm told, left in hysterics, and my brother was silent most of the time. The next part is from my own experience, as grandma called me again to yell at me. I let her have her rant while my fiancé and I just let the phone sit on the coffee table while on speaker mode. After a while, grandma realized I wasn't saying anything back and yelled at me to speak to her. So I said something one of the commenters I've had here pointed out in a prior post, that she's a coward who thinks she's in charge. But she's not, and never will be. She can't boss me around. She has nothing to leverage over me, and she always acts like she doesn't understand my reasoning when I know she does. But she doesn't ever care to admit it. Then I called her out on the lies she spewed about me to my fiancé, which grandma immediately denied. But then my fiancé spoke up and said she'd told me everything grandma had said to her, then asked why she would do that. Did she not want me to be married and be happy or something? And that's when it came out. Grandma yelled that she was pissed I am getting married before my brother. She'd wanted to see him married first because he's older and her favorite grandson. And she believed the least I could have done was let my brother try to save his relationship by proposing at my wedding. I said that wasn't trying to save a relationship, that was trying to trap that poor woman in one by hoping she wouldn't say no in front of a crowd. But I've already spoken to my brother's ex before she cut contact with all of us, and I know for certain she'd have said no to him anyway, and she'd been ready to break up with him for months. I doubt the relationship would have even lasted long enough to make it to my wedding. Then I said I knew she was going to call me selfish. So I pointed out all the things that make her selfish and me not. I'm helping out my parents financially when I didn't have to. I didn't ask for money from anyone when I went to college. I actually worked hard at my relationship with my significant other and didn't scheme to try and find a way to take control of it. While my grandma would rather spew out any reason she can think of to make my brother the golden boy who can do no wrong. She lied about me just to try and ruin my relationship in her hopes my brother would marry first. And she openly admitted to having a favorite grandson. Now that's selfish. Then I said that if it had turned out my brother had been in love with my fiancée or something, I bet she would have demanded I give her to my brother as well. Because that's just the kind of selfish narcissist she is. Then all I could hear on the line was Grandma loudly sobbing and my brother trying to console her. He didn't say anything to me. And then the phone hung up, either by him or her. I don't know. But I think it's fair to say I really verbally tore Grandma apart this time. Much more so than I ever had before. And yes, this time I finally blocked her number. And my brother's too. Update 4. Well, it's been a ride. A fair bit has happened since my last post. So I thought it best to wait till I'm married and settled in after my honeymoon to speak to everyone. Firstly, I want to say that I don't know shit about taxes other than I pay them. But someone here questioned how I could write off the money I was giving to my parents monthly for their mortgage. And I honestly thought I could. But a person who actually does taxes contacted me and said that wasn't possible, or at the very least shouldn't be possible since I don't have partial ownership of the house. And that made me curious that I may be breaking the law. Well, I looked into it. And long story short, the person who was doing my taxes before no longer is. I took my questions to the owner of the tax firm and explained to him that the guy who was doing my taxes was getting me a roughly 1/3 write-off on the money I was paying to my parents monthly. Well, the owner said he'd recheck my records himself and said he'd call me later. Took a few days, but he told me that the guy who was doing my taxes did a few things that he shouldn't, and that he had a previous record of doing this. The firm fired him. And the owner apologized profusely and asked me not to take my business elsewhere. I believe in supporting local businesses and shop from them when I can. So I told him that as long as my records are clean, I'll stay with him. And he assured me that he'll make sure everything is. I do find it stupid the owner didn't fire my former tax guy after his first offense. And I get the feeling he rug-swept a lot of things. But he's assured me that my taxes will be done by him personally from now on. So I'm going to give him the chance to make everything right. Since my last post, my parents have also managed to rent out both of their spare rooms. Both tenants are young women who are first-time renters, and they've each taken a room. Both are pleasant enough, but I've barely spoken to them. My parents say they're pretty good tenants. So we'll see how everything goes. My father has also begun remodeling the attic into another room that they can eventually rent. It's going to be a slow process as he doesn't have a lot of time to work on it unless it's on weekends. But he's determined to get it done. Now on to the period before my wedding. Well, my grandma went mental. Apparently, after I told her off over the phone about a month ago, she went off her rocker even further and actually lashed out at my brother, which is something I thought she'd never do with how much as he loves and enables him. After about a week, a neighbor heard all the commotion and ended up going to check on her, and she attacked him over it. Police were called and took Grandma into custody for a psych hold, and she tried to attack one of the officers as well. But she's a frail little old lady with false teeth. Not a lot she can do to one of them. My parents went in to see her, but visitors weren't permitted until the 3 days were over. And when they were, my parents met with her and told me she was hamming it up playing the victim and trying to get my parents back on her side. My mother said Grandma was still blaming me and also saying that she still had a right to be at my wedding. Well, my mother let her have it by saying that she lost that right after everything she said and did. All the lies and gaslighting. And being mad at me for something as petty as getting married before my man-child older brother that she outright said was her favorite grandson. Meanwhile, my brother was chilling in her house because he had it all to himself until my grandma was allowed to return home. Don't have much information from that point since my parents didn't bother to see Grandma or my brother again thus far. Next is my wedding. The outdoor venue my wife and I picked was beautiful. There was a good-sized man-made pond with paddle boats and plenty of wild ducks and frogs, though the ducks came right up to people begging for food. We brought some loaves of cheap wheat bread so the kids in the family could toss some to the ducks. The venue was also near a golf course, so kids were having fun hunting for lost golf balls like they were Easter eggs. They actually found a lot of them. That was some good wholesome fun. Yes, I did have security there. And yes, my grandma did show up and try to get in. Even though her invitation had been officially rescinded, she still had the paper one she'd gotten in the mail since she refused to return it after being uninvited. My brother wasn't with her, but she drove 200 miles herself just to try and get into my wedding. She showed up acting sweet, but then turned into a crazy bitch when the guard refused her entry. She screamed out my name and demanded to be let in. and she refused to leave till she spoke to me, until security threatened police. She ended up screaming at him and then waddling back to her car. And that was it for that. But this was not the end to the story. Oh no. Because now that the only person still talking to Grandma was my older brother, I guess she started taking things out on him. No family scapegoats left for her to yell at. So she started going crazy on my brother since he was under her roof now. I know this because he sent me a letter since I have him blocked on everything but snail mail. I got the letter after coming back from my honeymoon. It was a letter with a mix of apologies and blaming me. He said he was sorry for wanting to propose at my wedding, and sees how crummy it would have been to try that, and that I was right about him being underhanded in trying to ask his ex to marry him in front of so many people. But then said he was angry he didn't get to go to my wedding because I couldn't overlook his traumas. Then he said he was sorry for letting Grandma treat me the way she did for so long, because now he's getting some of that himself. Then blamed me for getting Grandma so worked up in the first place over yelling at her, and then not letting her into my wedding. Then went on to blame me for our parents kicking him out of their house, and being stuck with Grandma, because she's driving him up the wall. They didn't kick him out. He left when they wanted him to pay rent properly, so now he's apartment hunting. He did apparently ask my parents to move back in with them, but they outright refused and told him to get his own place. And that's about it on that. And on a side note, my brother's ex-girlfriend still has not reached out or spoken to anyone in my family since she last spoke with me. Not that I blame her. I barely knew her anyway, and we have no mutual friends. I checked her social media recently though, and she seems just fine without my brother in her life. So if she reads this, I'll just say good for you. Live well, and don't ever let crazy like my brother back in again. And to my brother, whom I know will likely find and read this soon, get a life, man. Stop blaming your shit on me and grow up. You're on your own now, and the rest of us aren't going to hold you up anymore. And if you do manage to date again, don't screw it up like last time. You and I both know why things didn't work out with your ex. And I hope you realize now that running to Grammy and getting drunk won't help you anymore when you're 30 years old. The world doesn't revolve around you. So let it go. As for me, my honeymoon was great. We went on the road and made it all the way to the coast. My wife also insisted we go cycling. I'm not much of a bicycle rider, but it was fun to go a couple miles down a coast road. Ended up dead tired though. Need to get in better shape. Anyways, I'd like to thank everyone here for listening to me and offering their advice. It really helped. Final update. I know the post I made last year was supposed to be the end, but I just wanted to tell this last bit now that it's all over. This compiles some events that happened from then to just recently. At first, my brother and grandmother only got worse. My grandmother turned into a crying wail again when my brother told her he was moving out. Then he had the gall to ask for mine and our parents' help to move his stuff because Grandma was saying she wouldn't let him leave. But our parents just reminded him of the shit he'd done to end up in his current situation. And rather than act like a rational human being, he decided he'd do just the opposite. He blamed me for ruining his life again. And my father told me he actually busted a gut laughing at my brother when he said that. Then laid into my brother over how he was blaming his own shit on me. And my 30-year-old brother curled up in a chair crying. He refused to leave our parents' house that night and stayed curled up on the couch with a bottle of booze until the next day, in which he was kicked out by our parents with a raging hangover. Our father told him he needed to apologize to me for real face-to-face, and that they'll no longer consider him their son if he doesn't. It took my brother a couple of days, but he showed up at my place with a piece of paper in hand and read out an apology he'd pre-written. He said he was so sorry for everything he's done. He's been a shitty person and an even shittier brother. He looked for any way he possibly could in his own head to make me the bad guy. But the excuses just aren't there anymore. He can't ever undo the things he did. But he wants to move forward and try to mend our relationship as siblings, starting with GTFO of Grandma's house. He told me he understands why none of us want to be there, and that he'll hire help. We ended up shaking hands and having a hug. And thus far he's actually been working hard to improve on himself, even cutting down on his drinking by a lot. As for my grandma, she did try to keep my brother from moving out, and she refused to let the movers he hired in. He had to get the help of a police officer to keep her at bay. They only had to move out one room's worth of stuff. And with the movers and my brother working at it, they got all of his stuff out of there in record time. My grandma ended up threatening to unalive herself while he was leaving. Or so my brother said, but I'm pretty sure that was the exact truth because she did actually try, but in the most attention-seeking way possible. She took a bunch of pills and then called 911 on herself. They took her to the hospital and got her stomach pumped, which was a bit redundant as she'd thrown up before the ambulance even arrived. But they wanted to be sure. My parents ended up getting APS involved as Grandma ended up on another psyche hold, only this time in a hospital bed. During her stay, they did several tests on her because she avoided doctors for years, and she was found to be in bad health. Her kidney function was low, her lungs weren't in very good shape, and she was at heavy risk of diabetes. So Grandma had to be put in a care facility for her own health and safety. It actually didn't surprise me much. She was a little woman, but had some weight on her. And all her teeth had to come out when she was in her 50s because the only thing she would drink is soda, and she ate a lot of sugary foods. She especially loved chocolate. She also used to be a heavy smoker in her younger years, and I guess that did some lasting damage to her lungs. She'd been having breathing trouble for some time, but somehow hid it from us all. Doctors found that she needed to be put on oxygen, and that she can't live alone anymore. She wanted my brother to come back and become her full-time caregiver, but he refused and said that he just can't. He's got his own life to live, and he's got a lot to make up for with the rest of us. While my grandma went crazy crying and throwing things in the hospital while screaming at us all to all get out. After she was out of the hospital, my parents worked to have Grandma put in a care home. They moved a few of her personal belongings into a room there to try and make her more comfortable. But that didn't really do much of anything. She was there all of a week and said she was incredibly miserable. All the employees treated her like a child, and she had to have an oxygen breather attached to her at all times. She also said she hated being there because, in her words, the place was filled with old people. And she hated being reminded that she's old too, and would rather be alone. She was there nearly a month before trying to unalive herself again by refusing to wear her oxygen breather and saying she'd hang herself with the tubes. They had to put her on close observation 24/7, which only made her even more miserable. Each time we saw her, she begged us, even begged me, to take her out of that place. She missed her home, and she missed her old life. But she wasn't going anywhere because she was considered a danger to herself. Well, eventually, she just seemed to accept her fate that she would spend the rest of her life living in the care home. And my grandma pretty much just shut down. She became that bitter old woman that hardly talks to anyone. We paid her regular visits, but she was never happy to see us. Me especially. And the months just blurred together with this routine. Things seemed to change a little when we told her my wife was pregnant. And she perked up at that. My wife reluctantly let her feel her belly when we visited. And that seemed to make her day. If anything, it made Grandma a bit nicer to all of us. But she was generally still her mean old self. Then some time ago we found out Grandma had a stroke in her sleep and passed away. The funeral was a bit lackluster. My mother was really the only one who cried. Most of us were just really quiet the whole time. And then we had a small family reunion at my parents' house. But if anyone here was thinking we'd be singing Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, well, no. It was mostly just awkward conversations as a lot of us didn't have much good to say about her. And she'd already passed away, so what good would it do any of us to talk about how toxic of a person she was in life either? So there wasn't much to do but stand around and get drunk. And get drunk we did. But it was more like a party full of sad, quiet drunks. Everyone dressed in black and gulping down beer or wine. Anytime someone wanted to do something fun, it just got really awkward till they shut up or decided to stay quiet or leave. And my wife wasn't there since she stayed home after the funeral because she couldn't drink and didn't want to be surrounded by people drinking. My brother is showing some genuine improvement. Grandma was his biggest enabler, and she's no longer with us. He applied for therapy last year to try and better understand himself and make a better effort to change. For now, he's trying to help out our father with remodeling the attic in his spare time, and things are still awkward between us any time we see each other. Right now, I can't say how things will go in the long run at all. But without Grandma's toxic, hopefully everything will change for the better. As for Grandma's estate, well, her will was surprisingly fair. We were all certain my brother would get everything since he was her favorite. But instead, my parents got her house, and they are working to get it ready to be rented out. The rest of Grandma's money and assets were pretty evenly distributed. Well, mostly. I didn't get much. But I didn't want it either. I'm doing fine. I didn't need it. I guess that concludes everything. TLDR, Grandma tried something crazy, got put in a care home, and passed away there. Stories number 16. I basically do nothing at work and leave early pretty much every day. My boss thinks I'm an exceptional employee, Trying to keep this as vague as possible in case my coworkers are on Reddit. I work in the construction industry as an engineer. If any of you are remotely familiar with how this world works, everyone is constantly stressed with working 9 to 12 hours a day, can and do work weekends, having to deal with your field craft, handle RFIs and submittals, and other construction documentation while taking part in project scheduling and budgeting, etc., etc. I do none of this. I just handle reports and other documentation with minimal field shit. On a typical day, I come in, look at a handful of reports, maybe message some people, and pretend to be busy before calling it a half day and leaving early. Like at best, my entire daily workload could be done in an hour, maybe less depending on how busy the workload is. I'm pretty sure no one has noticed because they got their own things going on and were pretty scattered around many trailers. My boss, who's stationed elsewhere, has never noticed this, or at least no one has brought it to his attention, and whenever I interact with him to resolve something, he's praised me for being hardworking, productive, and a crucial member of the team. Before you berate me, I actually do detest my job since I feel so useless, and I'm trying to find something else. Comments. Commenter 1. Live it up. You've achieved the dream. Reply. I recognize the fact that many people might see me as being incredibly lucky. Maybe in the future, I might envy this chapter in my life. But I'm someone who also wants fulfillment. Even at your job, you want to do at least something interesting. I'm just so bored and honestly so unmotivated since I have no passion for my current tasks or even this project, lol. Commenter 2. If you're leaving early on a regular basis, you have plenty of time to cultivate fulfillment outside of work. A low-stress, chill job is life's golden ticket. Don't throw it away. Commenter 3. Not construction, more like data entry, but I look at checks that people have coming into their bank accounts, so I look at our customers being fraudulent. It's a lot of open and shut, but my entire project or team seems to think that it takes 20 minutes per case, when it takes maybe 2 minutes to verify a good or bad check, and the other 20 minutes reaching out to people to confirm a fraud check. Can't leave early, but I end up spending 2/3 of each and every hour out in my car. Commenter 4. I work as an engineer tech, and well, as long as my reports and data analysis isn't missing when the engineers need to pull them, and I'm on top of my testing, sometimes I don't even come in on Fridays, and taking those half days is beautiful. Reply. The way I ditched work last Friday. The second only time I ever have, first being on a super rainy day last year, because one of the managers, specifically the one who can't seem to mind their own business, didn't come in. No one noticed. Commenter 5. There's always that one person you gotta look out for. My boss definitely knows, but he also knows I get my work done. He made a joke in passing about how I tend to go missing, and I got scared, so I asked if my current hours are enough, and he was just like, no one has told me you aren't getting your work done, so keep it that way, and I'm fine. TBH, my boss is pretty cool. So, stories number 17. AI with the pictures of my wife's ex I found. Recently, we had some spider issues at our house. I was going around trying to get rid of them. I told my wife that I was going to be ruffling around the house if she needed me. As I was going around, I opened this small drawer, and there's is where I found the pictures in question. They were of my wife's ex. See, earlier in our relationship, she actually cheated on me with said ex. This was before we got married. She begged me to stay, and that she was never going to see her ex again. Looking back now, I'm thinking I made a mistake, but I took her back on the basis that I never want to ever hear her talk to him, or about him, ever again. While it took some work to gain trust again, we did get through it. That was 5 years ago. We got married last year and bought this house together. And that's what fucking gets me the most. This wasn't her house from before. She actively brought these pictures here. I told her I found the pictures, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't know she had those pictures. If I believe her, to be honest. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I mean, I get that. She definitely should not have slept with her ex while the two of you were in the early stages of your relationship, but she had a life before you, and chances are she shoved those pictures in a drawer somewhere and hasn't given two thoughts about it. But it's part of her past and her history, and they edited to add. Unless they were incredibly inappropriate pictures, ETA, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'd say maybe freaking out about it and jumping to separation and divorce is not the right move. I have pictures of exes somewhere in my house, just like my husband has pictures of his exes. There are pictures of them on social media. My husband and I have been together for 14 years at this point. Reply. See, part of the deal when we reconciled back then was, he's out of your life entirely. I don't care what good memories you have with him. He's out. She agreed to that. Now I find out she still keeps memories of him. See, that's also part of my issue. My deal was, she can either purge him from her life entirely, or I'd leave. Commenter 2. Were they photos of her ex, or were they photos that her ex was in? I remember my parents arguing about my dad having photos of his ex in a box in the attic. Then I find out it was a golf outing with all his friends and their girlfriends when they were 18 on vacation. 2 friends in the photos died pre-social media, so these are some of the only photos he had of them. Reply. Photos of just them, and a few of just him. Commenter 3. When we were dating, my ex-wife slept with her ex. Biggest mistake you made was marrying her later on. Never got over it. Sorry, bud. You need to do some deep self-reflection. Was these pics a simple mistake or not? Commenter 4. Looking back now, I'm thinking I made a mistake. The issue really isn't with the pictures. It's that you don't feel that the life you are living was the right choice. The pictures have just reminded you of this feeling. I think you have to have a more serious conversation with yourself about that feeling and decide whether you feel comfortable going along with a marriage when your gut tells you it might be a mistake. Commenter 5. Exactly. Op is her second choice. That's why she cheated with ex-op. Gut is telling him this. Commenter 6. She knew she had the pictures. She had the pictures because she wants to have those pictures. I'm really sorry, OP. Update. What pictures of my wife's ex I found. So I talked to my wife after I had cooled off. Right now, I am thinking we should divorce, but I am going to try being on my own for a bit. I decided to go travel alone for a bit. My wife and I discussed this, and she's okay with it. We're not on a break, so to speak. So I'm not going to look to be with other women. I just want to see what it is like to be alone. Just so you all know, if my wife had just forgotten she had those pics, it may have been better. Problem is that they were just pics of him, or both of them together, and there wasn't any other things in there, just those pics. Heck, there wasn't even anything in the other drawer. And I mean, if you moved homes, you're not going to check if you have any junk in a drawer? I just don't believe my wife forgot, or at least didn't realize she had those pics when we moved. I don't care if he was a big part of her life, she still cheated on me with him. I will repeat. She cheated with the guy on the pics. Some of y'all either didn't read, or chose to ignore that little detail. It's amazing how many people defended their relationship, or were like, well, technically you said she couldn't talk to him again. You never said anything about pics. Anyway, I do appreciate the support from the rest of you. So right now, I'm thinking divorce, but I just want to make sure I'm happier alone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Woman weighing in. She's still hung up on her ex. If when she cheated she was sincere in her regrets, she would have burned every picture and memory she had of this guy. Not just for your sake, but because she would feel so much shame and disgust that she did that. She wouldn't want any reminder lying around. This is the guy she wants to be with and can't for whatever reason, so she settled for you. Commenter 2. I don't understand. She cheated on you and realized she was making a mistake and clearly didn't want to lose you. So in the spirit of going forward, I would have 100% purged everything prior to this move to a new home for you both. I'm sad for you. Good luck. This can't be easy. Reply. That was basically what we agreed on, and I was happy with said agreement. But now I found out she didn't keep her end of the agreement. Commenter 3. Was she really that matter of fact? Like, okay, let me know what you decide. Because in my mind, if she is really that dry and concerned about her screw up, that would tell me a lot about whether she is truly invested in you and in making the relationship work. Her just saying, okay, would make me feel pretty shitty. Reply. She did try to talk about counseling and trying to make it up to me. But honestly, at that point, I was just done with trying to talk. I knew that at that time, I at least needed some time for myself. Commenter 4. Gonna elaborate on this talk, or what? Reply. What's there to elaborate on? She said she forgot she had those pics. I told her I don't believe her. I told her I needed some time to decide if I want to stay in this marriage. She said okay. Commenter 5. I get why this is a problem. She cheated on you with that particular guy. She should have been super extra careful not to have that particular guy be in any part of her life whatsoever. There's no oops, my bad, when it comes to that particular guy. There's no rope, no leeway, no 3 strikes. She's already used all that up by cheating on you with him the first time. And she should know all of this already. So either she doesn't get it, or she does get it, and she doesn't care. And that's a problem. Good luck. Update. With the pictures of my wife's ex I found. So I finally decided to divorce. I went away for a bit without her. Keep in mind, I didn't go on vacation to Hawaii or anything. I went to a city I used to live in before I even met my wife. Basically, I wanted to see what life could be like without my wife. And honestly, I felt peaceful. I felt calm. I actually stopped thinking about my wife for a while. Something many of you commented was that my wife could have cheated on me while I was away. But I realized I really didn't care. I don't care if she cheats on me now, or if she loves me. I just don't care anymore. When I got back, I actually hoped she would be gone. Not because I hate her or anything, but it'd save me some hassle if I could file divorce by abandonment. I'm assuming it's easier. I don't really know how it works. But no, she was still there. I told her my decision, and she begged me to try marriage counseling. I told her I really don't want to go through the hassle. She told me we should fight for us. I told her I just don't want to fight for us anymore. I don't care about our relationship anymore. We had a long talk, and eventually she accepted that I want a divorce. We're starting proceedings now, BTW. I kept the pictures, and already met with a lawyer before I got back. I figured it wouldn't hurt to keep the pics. So yeah, now I realize I probably should have left her all those years ago. Still, I don't regret what I'm doing now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I don't care if she cheats on me now, or if she loves me. I just don't care anymore. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So yeah, divorce is the better way. Commenter 2. I think you are making the right choice here, OP. You gave her a chance to redeem herself, and she didn't live up to her promises. She just had to keep pictures of someone she cheated with even when you both moved. That's her fault, not yours. I'm glad you read her actions instead of just her words this time. I hope you continue to find peace in the days ahead, and that the divorce process is a smooth one. Commenter 3. Have been following and commenting since the beginning. I am not surprised at your decision. My thoughts were that nothing she could do could fix this. I believe it's possible, in some situations, with the right attitude, for a couple to recover from infidelity. But that leaves no wiggle room for any taint of any suspicion, or any hint the couple is not each other's number one. You'd pretty clearly set a boundary her ex needed to be permanently erased from your lives. Those pictures revealed she could never admit she wasn't still carrying a torch for her ex. Commenter 4. She kicked you in the balls when she decided to cheat on you, and if that wasn't bad enough, decided to keep pics of the guy she cheated on you with. She kicked you down, then stuck a knife in your back for good measure, so the only result here was a divorce. Anyone deserves better than a wife like this. This wasn't a one-off type of infidelity, or you wouldn't keep pictures of it. You would accept it was a mistake and move on, yet she didn't, because it was probably an ongoing thing. Stories number 18. AIO 33F me and 39M husband about a recent celebrity friendship my husband made. So my husband went on a recent trip a month ago for work. He works for a large company and is in marketing. Trying to keep this vague as possible, but provide the details to see if I should have real concerns. This trip took him to NYC, and he ended up working on a project with an actress. She is semi-famous, as in been on a bunch of popular TV shows. While they went to dinner with a few others from his work and some other people. He was gone for around a week. When he got home, he seemed the same and brushed off the trip as nothing serious or even fun. Very nonchalant in his attitude, and when I pried, he just didn't say much. We were in the living room watching TV like we do sometimes, and he of course had his laptop out. He sits the laptop down and partially shuts the screen, but not all the way. I heard several dings going off, and I couldn't help myself and had to open it. Well, her name and last initial was the sender on his Messages app Apple. I looked because I had to know. She was saying how she couldn't believe what a great time they had, and that she was looking forward to his next trip. On top of this, she said she hoped he enjoyed the gift she sent to his office. When he came back from the bathroom, I just straight up asked what that was about. He got mad that I was snooping, which I was, and said regardless I wanted to know more. And what gift? He said it was nothing but a watch. When I asked where it was, he said at his office. He didn't bring it home, and when I asked, he said I would make a big deal out of it, because it was an expensive watch. After 2 hours of arguing, he finally confessed it was a Rolex. Who does that? Who sends someone they just met a Rolex? Should I be concerned? Is this normal? We haven't talked at all today, and I don't know what I should do. I guess am I overthinking or overreacting, just being a nosy bitch? Edit. This is a bit overwhelming. I didn't expect such a response. I'll try to read and answer what I can. If I can, I might try to figure out more, and I'll update you. He isn't home right now. Update 1. My husband told me he was staying at a hotel tonight, as he said, I need to think about what is going on, and I don't feel like we're in a good place of trust. Comments. Commenter 1. The obvious conclusion is cheating. And I can't promise you that it wasn't. But in business, the obvious conclusion is business. Big company hires no so big actress for not so big money, at least by Fortune 500 standards. But for most of us, actors included, it's quite a payday. Of course, She'd like to work for big company again. Shakespeare it was not. But actress still puts her skills to good use. Makes a good impression. Acts like she had a great time doing marketing with husband and his travel team. Emphasis probably on the higher-ranking members of the team, but who knows? Think of the Rolex as a kickback. Thanks for doing business with me. Keep me in mind next time you need the kind of services I offer. Costly, but that big payday covered it many times over. Kickbacks come in many forms. As OP suspects, actress could have locked lips with husband, or even circled the bases. Otto, had she done that, I doubt that she would have felt the need to give him a Rolex. Commenter 2. Except his reaction betrays everything. If it was genuinely innocuous, then the husband wouldn't have reacted by being ridiculously cagey about the interaction and instead used it as an excuse to prove there is nothing going on. If it is actually a professional interaction, only then you show your wife the messages. Duh. That is literally the only rational decision in that scenario to avoid conflict. This isn't fucking rocket science, and given what this man is doing, and at what level he's clearly not an idiot and had to have seen this coming. Any sane person would have recognized, oh, if I just show my wife the extent of our communication, it will make more sense what is going on. Obviously, a significant portion of this man's interaction with the famous person is highly inappropriate, even when removing the factor of the watch. There is literally no other logical explanation for his reaction of getting mad and then escalating the situation further by opting to stay in a hotel room. Of course, anyone's partner would be extremely interested in understanding the nature of such a relationship. It's a famous person who has the money/moxie/wherewithal to just summon up a complimentary Rolex. Why would it not at least be a discussion topic? In a normal, healthy marriage to a non-dingbat man, they would typically be happy to bring up something like this as it's interesting and exciting and cool. He's hiding it and then reacting very negatively because he knows he did and is actively doing something wrong. Given his move of escalating by taking up in a hotel room, this man has absolutely either fucked her or was planning on doing so and needs time for unfettered communication with famous chick, hence the hotel, to get away from wife's potential prying eyes. Sorry, OP. Would highly recommend taking the necessary steps to protect yourself legally unless your marriage is intentionally open. Stories number 19. Aita to tow my neighbor's car. I just moved into a new condo I bought this weekend and realized my parking spot was taken when I got there at night. I waited for a few hours as I unloaded my stuff. It was still there after I was done. I decided to get it towed. Neighbor A saw the tow truck, came out, and said he knew the owner. He went to the unit to alert them, but they weren't home. Tow driver verified that I owned the spot and towed it. Neighbor A was upset and telling me, I lived here for years. That's crazy, one tenant towing another tenant. Neighbor B live downstairs came back around 11 p.m. and came banging on my door loudly. I knew it could be because of the tow. I didn't open and I just asked who is it. He didn't respond and kept banging. After 5 minutes or so, he finally said something like, I'm your neighbor. You towed my car. You should have parked next to it. I said I didn't know it was yours. We talked through the door, so it wasn't very audible. He left eventually. I'm at this point, feel bad about this. I'm also afraid of revenge or retaliation. I did check HOA rules, and towing is the remedy when others park in wrong spot. I honestly don't know anybody in the community to check whose car was it. Please help what to do to make peace with neighbor. Update. I haven't spoken to them since or seen them. I called HOA, and they said I did the right thing. The parking spot is literally on my deed, and the only other option was to park in someone's spot. There is no visitor parking or street parking since it's downtown during event hours. Comments. Commenter 1. I live in a complex that's notorious for stealing parking spots, except mine now after 8 tows. They don't fuck with my spot no more. I don't give a fuck if I'm an asshole you park in my space, and I'm gonna tow your ass. I'm not looking for you. Commenter 2. NTA. You shouldn't risk being towed yourself because B can't follow the parking rules. It was B's own fault. Get a camera and aim it at your car in case B decides to be stupid. Commenter 3. Fuck all these people telling you to leave a note, or you should have waited. Your neighbor was well aware that they were parking where they were not permitted to park. Doesn't matter if they got away with it once or 100 times, they 100 knew the risks. Reply. Thank you. The unit I bought was vacant for 6 months, so I had a feeling not their first time. People in downtown pay for extra parking in nearby parking garages if more than one car. Apparently they'd happily take others' spot and make others accommodate them. Commenter 4. It's done now. You will just have to take a breath and see what happens and deal with it as it comes. Likely they knew it was a vacant unit and thought there wouldn't be a problem. Once neighbor A said he knew who the car belonged to, then it might have been good to find a solution for a few hours. But since the truck was there, I can see why you went through with it. Hopefully you will be on different schedules and just won't see each other. Stories number 20. A woman gave me her number on a plane, and soon after we landed, I found out her husband was also on the flight. I 31M recently flew on a flight last week for a business trip, and I am still trying to process what happened during the flight. For reference, I chose to fly with Southwest Airlines, so for those who don't know, the seating is first come first serve. So I was boarding my plane fairly early, boarding group B5, so I had my pick of a large majority of seats on the plane. I headed to the middle of the plane and decided to sit in the emergency row, which consisted of 2 seats. As the plane was near finishing with boarding its last group, a gorgeous woman asked if she could take the seat next to me. I politely accepted, made some room, and the plane took off. Before takeoff, we hit it off instantly. For reference, this woman was super flirty, had no wedding ring, and from what I could see, looked like she was alone when boarding, but I was wrong. We discussed our plans and where we were flying, and she said that she was going to LA to visit some friends, and I told her I was going for work. At one point she got super handsy and even ended up placing her leg over mine and moved the armrest between us to get closer. Since I assumed she was single, I quickly made plans, told her where I was staying and that we should grab a drink later. Turned out she was staying at the same hotel as me, which was crazy. We ended up exchanging numbers, and we legit made plans for that evening, and I had a feeling things were going to get spicy. Fast forward to when we landed. This woman quickly unbuckled her seatbelt, said her goodbyes, and made sure that she was one of the first people off the plane, which I thought was odd. After I walked down the ramp, to my surprise I saw her. Except this time she had a wedding ring on her finger and was holding hands with a man as they were walking to get their bags. Later that night, I ended up texting her just to see what was up, and I even brought up seeing her after we landed, but she brushed it off and avoided the topic. I thought that was weird, so I just stopped replying to her. I ended up grabbing the drink that night, and again to my surprise, her and this same man ended up sitting at the bar directly across from me. She never approached me and made flirty eye contact all night. Wild stuff. Comments. Commenter 1. Her just acting out the first half of the fantasy with a stranger and hooking up with her husband later. Hey, at least she'll be thinking about you. Reply. Still so wild to me. Stories number 21. Don't touch anything unless I tell you. Cool. I'll just stand here then. I 18F work part-time at a small retail store. On busy days I usually help unpack boxes and restock without being told, just to keep things moving. But one shift, my manager snapped at me. Don't touch anything unless I specifically tell you. Got it. All right then. So I stood behind the counter while boxes piled up in the back. Customers asked where items were, and I smiled and said, I'll have to ask my manager. I wasn't told I could move stock. After about an hour of chaos, my manager stormed over and said, Why isn't anything getting done? I just said, I was waiting for you to tell me what to touch. The rule disappeared after that shift. Stories number 22. Partners who will bring things up at the absolute terrible time. This seems to me a uniquely female experience. I'm sleep-deprived typing this, as I was told at 11 p.m. last night that my spouse wants marriage counseling. 2 hours after I'd fallen asleep, I get jostled awake for this revelation. That's fine, and it's not the first time we've had it, sadly. What I'm bewildered by is the timing. If it had been on his mind over the weekend, what stopped him from bringing it up then, rather than the middle of the night? Then I think back to other women in my life. I can start to compile a list. One of my girlfriends was told by her ex-spouse that he wanted a divorce in the middle of a concert she had been saving up for months, mid-song by her favorite artist, if I recall. Another girlfriend of mine was told how her partner really hated their sex life and was unhappy with her, right after their 20-week ultrasound scan. In the damn doctor's office after what should have been a sweet moment. My older sister had a horrible college boyfriend who used to also start fights only on the way to big events like friends' weddings or birthday parties. Similar to my spouse, they'd say that these feelings had been pent up but couldn't come out until an important event was about to happen. I could continue on with internet stranger stories similar to mine, but hopefully the point is made. I wouldn't deny that sometimes emotions fly fast and you don't get to meticulously plan hard conversations. But what is it about this lack of consideration going on? It's just one of those things I say, I would never on. I have never once thought I had to spring hard topics on a partner in a place other than a safe, private area where we could have time to actually talk. Stories number 23. Wanna park like an a-hole? Get trapped like an a-hole. I went to the mall yesterday to go to my local Barnes & Noble. This mall's Barnes & Noble parking area is like always full, but I found a cute little spot, and I parked my happy-ass car in it. Well, once I've finished spending a ridiculous amount of money on books I'll never read, I come back to my car only to find that a car had parked next to my driver's side, so fucking close a child would not be able to squeeze in there. I do the old crawl in through passenger side maneuver, very annoyed, and I'm like, well, that was fucking annoying, let me just leave, and then I realize, why should this asshole get the pleasure of entering their car, all happily when I did not? So I take a gamble, that the car on their driver's side will leave before them. I'm waiting outside, I shit you not. Not even 2 minutes later someone's happy ass walks out of the Barnes & Noble presumably with books they will never read. He gets into the car next to asshole's car, and leaves. Happy not reading to you, my friend. I love you. I get back in my car and pull into the spot, so close a child would not be able to fit through it. It took some effort to park that shitty. And I wait again, outside of course. About 15 minutes of Reddit scrolling later someone's happy smug ass walks out of the Barnes & Noble, and his smugness is instantly crushed when they realize, oh no, my car is so close to this car that a child could not fit through. I smile. I could do this all day. I watch him struggle to get from the passenger side seat to the driver's seat because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention. This guy is not skinny, and he was tall, like at least 5 feet 11 inches. I am 5 feet 2 inches and did the passenger to driver's seat gymnastics in under half a minute. This guy struggled for like 3 minutes trying to get his legs to the other side. Once I see him almost done with his gymnastics, doesn't feel nice when it happens to you. Is all I'm thinking. I walk over to my car and get in and reverse out. I make sure to glance at him and smile, then give him the finger. He looks bewildered, already enraged about this 3 minutes of struggle. Why would I flip him off? A look of realization crosses his face. I like to think his dumb ass just realized that my car was on the other side before. Think before parking like an asshole.